Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well tonight. It's a busy week here at Balance, as you can imagine, but I am doing well. Actually was a little under the weather earlier this week. My youngest daughter got sick over the weekend, and then my oldest daughter actually had to come home today from school. So knock on wood, I'm not getting anything, but we took tests. There is COVID around her school, so wanted to make sure that it wasn't being transmitted to others. Took tests today, and we are both clean, so I don't think that is the problem. I think it's just one of those colds that people get, a little bit of an achiness, a little bit of a fever for my oldest. Actually, my youngest had a fever too. So it's what parenting is, trying to do all of these things that I do, plus my normal job, plus trying to take care of the kids. It is a juggling feat that I'm able to do it all. Shout out to all of my parents out there who are trying to hold it down, do parenting and go rollerblading. It is not easy, but we are out here in numbers. It's been a busy week, so I'll get into it all. And I want to just say, first of all, thanks everybody for all the huge support that I've seen over the last couple of days. It's been an emotional ride. I was excited for this launch, but I wasn't expecting the huge onslaught of positivity. So again, thank you all so much for the support, not just from people, but from shops. I've been hearing so many things from shops who are just excited to get the product in. And, I'm going to say it a few times tonight. Obviously, I love your support at Balanced. The website really helps with the margins and getting things sold direct. It's the way that we can stay in business, but it's amazing to see the support for the shops. The shops need to stay in business. It's not just enough for me to do these YouTube videos and post on the Instagram and stuff, but supporting local shops is really important. So I've heard from probably as many shops, new shops that I haven't heard from in the last couple of days, as shops that I actually sell to, because they are excited about the skates. They want to bring the skates in. This is shops all around the world, and I'm thrilled to be just in a position now where we can actually send them product that they want. So hope that you will support them. I hope that there's more support for shops. We need shops in our lives. You know where to find your skate stuff. People don't. They go to Amazon and they end up with stuff that's going to break, and having a skate shop locally is really, really important. So again, thanks for all that, and thanks for the support. Any other early stuff? I think that's it. It was great chatting with everybody before the show. I'm usually on about 30 minutes before, just kind of staying silent. But if you ever have questions, feel free to show up a little early and ask away. I am going to warn you, I pinned it in the chat, but this might get busy tonight. So if I don't get to everybody's question, know that I will look through the entire thing and I will read everything. So your question will be seen, but it might not be answered. If you do have a question that I don't get to tonight, please leave a comment in the video or DM me. You know how to get a hold of me. I don't want to avoid any questions. I'm not avoiding you, but I am going to probably miss a few. So again, apologies in advance. Hope that you are great. Hope you have a nice little beverage, and hope you're comfortable, because this is going to be a wild ride. Anyway, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to Gear Talk episode 119. Gear Talk is the show that I do every other week, where we talk about the geekier side of rollerblading. If you've heard about the Standard Omni, then you've come to the right place. It is going to be a fun night. I cannot wait to share everything with you, all of the geeky details about it, and this is the perfect place for that. Gear Talk is the show where we break down the weirdness of rollerblading, and we try to explain to you why single-piece mounting systems are better than T-nuts scattered around your sole plate. We try to explain why a flat sole is better than a raised heel, and why having that option is important. We do this every other Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, live on YouTube. It's a great opportunity to tune in, ask questions about blading. If I can't get to them, there are knowledgeable people in the chat who just love to hang out, get through the middle of their week with their friend Law, hang out and have a drink or get some popcorn and watch the show and answer some questions. Googling things for rollerblading can be a little difficult sometimes. It is not the most mainstream sport. So finding resources like this and finding a community that we have to ask your questions, super important. You've found it now. Would love to see you again in 2 weeks when I do the next show. But we try to do this every other Wednesday. It's a good time at 9 p.m. that I can reach as many time zones as possible. Again, apologies to the EU. It is hard to do a show like this during normal hours because I've got a wife and kids and I've got responsibilities and I've got a full-time job. So I want to make sure that I overlap with West Coast. But again, thank you for watching. If you do have a question during the show, please feel free to tag Back to Blading. It will be in the live chat. It will show up in orange so that I can see it. If you're watching after the show, please make sure that you leave a comment. I would love to read your comments, positive or negative, questions or just statements. I read all of the comments on the videos. I will thumbs up everything so that you know that I read it. And if you need a response or something, I will do my best to give you some answers or at least point you in the direction that you need so that you can get your answers for your questions. Before we get started, always like to thank my friends over at thehelmetinitiative.org for helping us with our helmet giveaway. Skates or no skates, I'm super big proponent of wearing your helmet whenever you go out and skate. It is important that you have a little bit of insurance for when you fall, and you will fall. Everybody falls when they go skating. The question is, can you roll to a point where you don't hit your head? And that's something that, you know, even the most skilled skaters can sometimes get caught off balance and end up hitting their heads. The surfaces that we skate on are not perfectly flat. It's not an ice rink. It is a skate park or it is a playground. And that's the sort of thing that can trip you up and you fall without knowing it and you could hit your head. And if you do hit your head, if you're not wearing a helmet, it could be a serious injury. I want to make sure that we put more helmets on people's heads. Go to backtoblading.com/helmet. Let me paste that in the chat. Backtoblading.com/helmet. If you would like a helmet for people outside of the US, we will send you some money to buy a helmet in your local currency. If you are in the US, we will get your size and we will send you a helmet. We pick one person at random for every episode of Gear Talk, and we try to get them a helmet as quickly as possible so that you can protect your head when you're out there skating. All we need is your first name, last name, and email address so that we can contact you. We won't spam you. We won't sell your information. This is only for our contact information. We delete everything after the show, so it's not like we're keeping this as a data mining thing. We just want to make sure that we can get helmets to people who need them. We usually do the 888 certified sweat savers. They're the helmets that I use, the best helmet that I've found for the money. They're usually around 50 to 60 bucks. And I like to send a helmet to anybody here in the US. If you're outside of the US, it can get a little expensive. So I want to make sure that you don't have to pay any money for import tax or anything like customs. So we'll send you some money to your PayPal or your Venmo so that you can get yourself a helmet at a local skate shop and at least get yourself a helmet on your head. I'm able to do this because we have a Patreon. So go to patreon.com/backtoblading. And that's where we've been posting a few exclusive things. Whenever we do the podcast, we do the post to the Patreon first. We do some photos up there. I think we did a photo during the Omni, the standard photo or video shoot, so that people could see what we were working on. It's just a place that you can go if you want to learn a little bit more about the Back to Blading world. It is definitely not something that I recommend for students or people who are out of work right now, need to save their money. This is something that has a little bit of disposable income, wants to help to support the channel and support what we do with the blading community, with the helmet initiative, excuse me. So Back to Blading, patreon.com/backtoblading is where you can get more information. It is, a couple bucks a month would really help. It just all goes into the pot so that we can get more helmets on people's heads. And obviously, thanks to our friends over at the Helmet Initiative for sending us the helmets to give away. It is especially important that we have a good resource that can give us some helmets so that we don't have to come out of pocket for all that stuff. All right. Maybe we should just get started. So I usually start with my current setup. I can talk about my current setup. Actually, I can finally share my current setup. So they've been on the wall for a few months now, but I was skating, what was I skating this weekend, I think? Did a live stream from the warehouse. I've been skating off and on, not as much as I'd like. The weather's been a little up and down here, but I've been skating the Standard Omnis for the last 6 months or so. Ugh. So these were the samples. So you can see how shiny they are. These are the samples of the Standard Omni. These are the skates that I'm currently skating. I will show you the details of the final ones, but so that you can finally see what I've been skating. This is what they call a T1 sample. So this is straight out of the tooling. The shininess is because there is no texture added to the boot. That is why I've been a little hesitant to share them, aside from not wanting to reveal what I was working on. But it looks kind of weird, right? It looks like one of those cheap rec skates. I am not a fan of the shiny, but I wanted to share it here for posterity so that you could see what you were seeing on the small Instagram reels or what I was posting on the live stream. They are actual skates. They are the final design. The only thing that's changed, a few tweaks here and there, and added textures and made it a little bit more dialed in so it looks pretty. But anyway, this is what they looked like. They've been up on the wall for a while. I'll put them back up here so that you know what my current setup has been. I've skated them with big wheels. I've skated them with small wheels. I've skated them anti-rocker. I've ended up with the standard aggressive frame, skating them flat 58s on the Chroma 58 millimeter rounded wheels, 90A. They're a great setup. I can't complain. You know, I'm really, really pleased with the frame. I'm really pleased with the sole plate. Everything slides great. Everything's locking good. Haven't had any issues. You've seen my clips. I'm able to do all of my tricks. So really, really excited to get down into the nitty gritty about these skates today. I think what we should probably do, let's skip the questions. I would love to answer your questions. Usually I do a question after I talk about my current setup, but I have a feeling that a lot of the questions are going to be kind of tied to the next topic. So it's probably best to jump right into it. Let me do that. I will jump right into it rather than doing your questions, in the spirit of time and not being here until midnight. It is 9:15 now. Should be good for another hour and a half at least. Shouldn't take too long, but we'll see. All right, I guess we'll get started. So it has been a big week. I was finally ready to announce the first skate from Standard. Standard is a skate company that I started. I guess we announced it back at Bitter Cold, which was February of this year. We've been working on this project for a few years now, really ramped up the work over the last year as we started fine-tuning what the boots were going to look like. At the Bitter Cold show, at the event, we had a 3D printed sample of the skate. We finalized what it was going to look like, and we sent out the money for the first sample molds. And we had the skate on display kind of behind tinted glass so that you couldn't really see it because, you know, it was a 3D print. At Blading Cup this year, we were able to show the first molded samples. These are actually the ones that I just shared, are the molded samples that we were sharing. I think actually these are version 2, maybe version 3 of the molded samples. A few tweaks here and there, a few little adjustments in materials, but they were the first actual samples, the skatable samples. And those are the ones that we posted to social that people were able to go up to us at Blading Cup and check out. Since then, it has been nonstop testing sizing, testing the skates, making sure that everything was dialed in. We made a few tweaks to that since then. We made 3 different sizes of shells since then. So we've been testing those sizes. We've been sending those samples around to people to try their feet and make sure that they fit properly. Those molds are all done. They are at the T1 stage now, where we have the samples that people are able to skate. And we started finalizing the mold so that we're about to start production. And that means that it's time to announce the new Standard skate. So let's do this. Let me bring it out. So if you haven't seen it already, go to standardskate.co. That is the website that we put together that has all the information about the skates. I'm going to go through a lot of it tonight. I'm going to get a little bit more geeky. This is the sort of thing that I do on Gear Talk. It's going to get a little geeky. If it's too much for you, take a break. you don't have to listen to the entire thing. It's on YouTube. You can watch in the future. You can skip around if you want. We're going to get into millimeter measurements. We're going to get into weights. We're going to explain different thread sizes. We're going to talk about harnesses of shock absorbers. There's a lot of stuff in here that a lot of you are just going to be like, I have no idea what he's talking about. I don't care. Absolutely fine. Go to the website. You'll get all the information. We've made 2 videos, one explaining Standard as a brand, the other talking about the Omni and just everything about the skate, detailing all of the things that you need to know in order to make a decision if you would like to purchase the skates. For those of you who are super into it, who want to know more about the skates, this is the place to be. We're going to get really geeky into it, going to explain every decision that we've made, and I hope that you will stick with me. It's going to be a long show. If you have questions, I would love to answer them. I might not get to them, but why don't we do this? Let's hold the questions until the end, because I have a feeling the chat is going to scroll. Uh-oh, did I lose? I got a little focused. My camera got a little blurry. There, it got blurry back. There it is. Sorry if it gets blurry. Why don't we save the questions until the end? And the reason why I'm going to ask that is because I will likely talk for a while, and I have a feeling there will be some comments in the chat and we will lose some of the questions. So let's hold the questions until the end. I usually say ask whenever you want. Hold the questions until the end, and I will start scrolling as we ask for questions so that everybody can ask their questions. So if you have a question that you've been saving, hold on to it. I might answer it. If I don't, you will have an opportunity to ask questions after I'm done. Sounds good. All right. Standard Omni. So the Omni is a great name. So we were playing with different names and we came up with the name Omni. And Omni is all. So it's inclusive of all. It's including all. It's combined of all. And it made a lot of sense. Not only from a Standard being a brand that we're trying to be a very inclusive brand to not only every style of skating, but every type of person. You know, male, female, age, none of that matters. We just want to put good skates on your feet that you're going to be able to go out there and have a great time. And we fully support that. I think this is something that all brands should be very overt about, that the rollerblading community is incredible, that you can go to an event and you will see all sorts of people of different backgrounds, different orientations, different everything. And it doesn't matter. It is the great equalizer that we are all just rollerbladers and we love rollerblading. And that is one of the things that Standard is really about. The other is we wanted to take inspiration from as many skates as possible, because the name Standard comes from me going out there and skating every skate on the wall and saying, this skate isn't perfect for me, but it has a lot of really great things that if I were making my own skate, I would use this, I would use this, I would tweak this. And I found inspiration in all of these skates to put into the Omni. And that is, in my eyes, what makes Omni Omni, that it is a combination of all of the great ideas in skating under one roof. So here's the skate. So this is the Standard Omni. It is a plastic boot. It has a flat heel with an internal shock absorber. It is available in 4 different shell sizes. So we're going down to a US 6'7", which is a 39-40 foot, all the way up to an 11-12, which is the 45-46 foot. So this is the black version. You've seen the profiles. You've seen the back. People were asking for the look down. This is the look down, which I am extremely happy with. You can see the base. This is the base. We've been very specific with our logo placements. So you won't find a lot of logos on skates. We wanted to make sure that these skates were obviously our skates, but it doesn't have to be in your face. So you'll see a logo on the heel. You'll see a logo on the sole plates. And you'll see there's a logo on the H block, and there's one above the H block on both sides. And that's it. The wheels will have logos. These are pre-production wheels, so they are just 58 millimeter wheels. These are the rounded 58 millimeter 90A that will come on the skates, but they don't have their branding on them. They will have a slight branding on it. First thing to say, these skates are really light. It's hard to convey how light they are here. So I did bring out my scale. I don't know that I really spoke to this, but it might be in the video. I have my scale here. Here's the display for the scale. You can kind of see it. So we're at 0 grams. This is a complete skate with frame, anti-rocker setup, ABEC 9 bearings. Put it on the scale. So we're at, what does it say? Let me not lift it with the thing. 1752. All right, 1752. I have a boot-only version. This is the white. Boot-only version. Put on a scale. 1214. So out of context, that number doesn't really mean anything. Let me compare it to perhaps two of my favorite light skates on the market. First, the boot only, because the frames are heavy, not doing them any favors. The boot only Majestic 12. So these are the Grant Hazelton Majestic 12s, boot only, no frame on it, just the liner. $1208. So that's 1208 grams for the boot only compared to $1216. So it is 8 grams heavier than a Majestic 12. If you've ever held a Majestic 12 in your hands, you know they are very light skates. These are very light skates. The complete being anti-rocker setup 1752. 1752. What do I have that's an anti-rocker setup? Oh, we could use the USE 7. That's a popular shade. Yeah. This is an anti-rocker setup with the God's Team. It's also a very light skate with an anti-rocker setup. 1900. So 1900 for the God's anti-rocker setup. 1900. And then the Omni, same configuration. $1750. We have done our homework. We've made these skates as light as possible. And you can seriously feel it when you are skating, that these skates feel like an extension of your foot. It doesn't feel like you're skating in a boot. It feels like the boot is part of your foot. The wheels are on the bottom of your foot and you just go out there and skate. I've had a few people try these skates on and they all agree. Their first comment is, I can't believe how light these are. Especially coming from a skinned skate. If you were skating a skin skate, it can be very heavy. That skin is not light. These are extremely light. We were able to find a material to make these that is not only flexible, you can see the flex, not only flexible, but supportive and also light. A lot of materials out there are very heavy, believe it or not. It's a very light material. This material is usually used in a lot of rec skates. And the factory that we've worked with makes a lot of great rec skates. And some of the names that you will probably know. They are very supportive skates. They are very durable skates. The way that we've designed this skate will fit your foot really nicely because of the way that the lacing system works. Flexible enough that you'll be able to do all of your tricks, but still supportive enough that if you want to go out there and skate big wheels, you shouldn't have any problems with it. So that's the lightness. Very, very light skates. I think you're going to really appreciate them in hand. Best way to go through this, let's start from the top and work our way down. Now, I did get into this a little bit on the video. If you are not familiar with the videos that we put together, standardskate.co is where you can go to get all the information about it. Starting at the top, we have a locking buckle. So the buckle is plastic, it is locking. So when you push it down one more time and it pops in. There's a little button in the back. You push it and it pops open. You push this little thing to open it up. For me, a plastic locking buckle is a huge upgrade. A lot of people break their buckles. I know I have broken way too many buckles. And typically when I break a buckle, it is because the buckle pops open and I miss a sole trick, or it's a little bit open and it starts just hitting a little bit. And then over time it starts bending and then pop, comes popping off. With a nice buckle protector and the click of a locking buckle, we should be able to eliminate broken buckles. It will stay locked, it won't pop open, and it won't break. I've never seen one of these buckles break. I've seen them wear down from missing tricks or sidewalks, I guess. I don't know what people are doing, but I've never seen one of them break. So very, very excited to have a locking buckle. Opening up this buckle. It's a brand new cuff. So each of these molds is brand new. We're not replacing anything. The buckle is not ours. It is the only stock part I think that we have on this whole skate is the buckle. We do plan on making our own buckle eventually, but right now we're not. The cuff is brand new. So we are using a brand new design. This is a V-cut cuff. I've always loved the way that a V-cut works. It gives you a little bit more room in the back for your Achilles so that you can lean back a little bit more flexibility when you're doing anything that you're bending your foot forward and backwards. The liner follows that V-cut, so the back of the liner is also V-cut. This is actually one of the few things that this final sample is a little bit wrong. Let me show you what the actual back of the liner looks like. I think that would be a good illustration. So this is what the liner should look like. It has a different material back here. It's the neoprene. So not only does it have the V-cut, but this material that's on the side stops on the side. It goes down, and this is the neoprene material. That'll be a lot more squishy in the back. Gives you a lot more of a comfortable feeling when you're skating. This material is going to be in the back here, but they screwed up on this sample. So that is the way that things go sometimes. But that is the top level of the skate. We do have a nice carry strap. This is a fairly robust carry strap. It's not just for holding your skates. You can actually use it to pull your foot on. It is super reinforced. It should not rip out. It should sit there and let you really crank yourself down if you want to get your foot into this boot. It is made of a really nice material. It's comfortable in the hand. Should be easy enough for you to carry, but it's not big enough that it's going to get in the way or anything like that. We did want it to be a very a handle so you could carry it. It's a really nice feeling versus the little ones that kind of loop around in the back that you put your finger in and you can kind of carry it. This is really nice. You can get a carabiner and lock it in as well. Really love this handle in the back. Working our way down, we have riveted cuffs. So that was one of the decisions that we made really early on, that we wanted to have our cuffs riveted. The reason is people don't really think about their cuff bolts until you lose a cuff bolt. And then you're like, where did my cuff bolt go? Why don't I have a cuff bolt? Why do I have so much flex right now? Oh, because my cuff bolt's gone. Cuff bolts can ruin your session. If they get loose, if they fall out, you're done. You can't really skate without a cuff bolt. So we wanted to remove that from the equation. These cuffs will not come out unless you drill them out. And you can drill them out. If you're watching this show, you probably know that you can drill any of these things out and you can replace them with replaceable rivets or cuff bolts or anything like that. Do you? Once you get the skates, they're your skates. But for most people, we never change our cuffs. We're never going to touch these cuff bolts. Having a nice riveted cuff area is all that we need. Don't need to worry about anything else. The cuffs don't need to go anywhere. They need to pivot. They need to stay secure, and that is what we want. So riveted cuff bolts, really excited about that. It's funny how that's a feature, but it's something that we've really stressed to the factory from the beginning, that we want to make sure that these are riveted. The lacing area. So we made sure that we used a very thick, responsive, supportive plastic. The material that we're using is very supportive. It's not a super flexible skate. It's not going to be one of the skates that, you know, if you leave in the sun, you could step on it and make it into a pancake. It is a very supportive skate. My background is in hockey. I love having that feeling that the skate is an extension of your foot. I like having support. But because it is plastic and not leather like a hockey skate, you need to be able to have a little bit of flex around the lacing area so that it holds your foot in. If you don't, you need to have a 45-degree strap. And we didn't want to do a 45-degree strap. I feel like an aggressive skate typically shouldn't have a 45-degree strap. There are exceptions, of course, and a lot of people love 45-degree straps. I don't know that I personally need one. So rather than have holes in the shells that people are just going to remove the 45-degree strap anyway, we said no 45-degree strap. If you want to put one on, you can always drill into your shell and put a 45-degree strap in, or 45-degree buckle or something like that. But we don't have a 45-degree strap. Instead, we have a very thin lacing area. So I have my calipers here. The lacing area, the lacing area is, at its peak, 3 millimeters thick. 3 millimeters thick down to 2 millimeters. So it tapers down from this area out here. This is the thick area. And then this area up here is thin. And it tapers down. I actually have, let me show you, I'll show you that later. It tapers down, which means that this area being thin, when you tie up your skates, you can see it crank it in. It's kind of hard to see with your hands, but if you're using your laces, you can pull the laces and you'll see that it flexes in and it really hugs your foot. I think I posted that clip. I'm not sure where I posted that clip, maybe on my Instagram. But you could see at the skate park, and I'll do some skating this weekend and I'll show you. When you put it on your foot and you tie up your laces, it just hugs into your foot. It is almost as good as a 45-degree strap because it sucks your foot in. That is the feeling that I always love with skates. It's what I love about a lot of the skinned skates. So we try to replicate that feeling with a lacing area here. And by making the material thinner, I think we've done a pretty good job of making that work. Let's talk about the liner. So the liner is a premium liner. My biggest concern with skates is when they don't do a very good job with the liner. And for me, you know, I don't mind skating the stock liners. I think a lot of people out there have premium liners. Let's pull this liner out. A lot of people already have premium liners. So instead of just making a stock liner that's, you know, throwaway liner basically, we wanted to make a liner that was fairly premium that people would love to skate. I personally am not a huge fan of the super performance liners. I like a more comfortable liner. This is our comfort liner. It is called the comfort liner because it is comfortable. It has a lot of padding around it. You can see the label in the back. It is the comfort liner. I don't know that you can really see that. Maybe you can. Yeah, you can. It's the comfort liner. It is designed for people who just want to put their feet on a skate, just go out there and skate. The top area is nice and padded. It is a heat moldable material. What that means is after skating for a few hours, your feet are going to warm up, your body's going to warm up. At a certain temperature, this material gets a little bit more soft and it will get more moldable. When it heats up, it will become a little bit more pliable, moldable, and it will form around your foot. You can fast track that by putting it in an oven for 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes at 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Take it out of the oven, put it in your shell, put it on your foot, tighten it up like you're going to go skate, and sitting and let it cool down. That will then speed up that process so that it will mold around your foot and it will make your foot feel really almost like a perfect fit for your foot. Now the heat moldable stuff is up in the top. It's in the cuff area. This is the area that you really need it. Down below, we're using a very thin supportive material. What is a thin material? We looked at a bunch of different liners out there, and they kind of, when you look at liners from a breakdown, what they're functionally trying to do, it's two things. One, they're trying to create a area around the bottom, like a little ankle sock, that keeps you from getting blisters. You want a little bit of padding around your foot so that when your foot is moving around in the boot, it doesn't rub up against anything and give it blisters. It's also protecting it from any bolts that you might have. Above it, you want comfort around the ankles because that is the area that can be adjusted. So if you look at this cuff, the cuff can open up and it can close. This area down here is set. You can't really do much around that. So you want this area to be thin. You want your foot to just fit into there. This area can be a little thicker, which is why we have this padded cuff, so that you slide your foot in, slides into the boot, and then you use the buckle, and it slowly cranks it down so that it fits around your ankle. And that, in our experience, is the best way to get a nice, comfortable fit around the skate. So that's what this liner is all about, trying to make it a comfortable fit so that when you go out there and skate, it just feels like you're having a great time. It's not a performant liner. It will be great for skating anything you want, but it is not a thin, super dense material. It is a padded liner, plush liner, undoing it. There's a few features of a premium liner that I like calling out. First is it is laceable. There are 3 lace holes on each side. We're using elastic lacing. So, fun fact, our neighbors here, I actually have one here, our neighbors here at the warehouse are a company called Lock Laces. So they are, you can kind of see the address, I don't know if you'll be able to read it, but you can see their address in Durham. They are 2 doors down. They make these things that are designed for athletic shoes that are called lock laces. So it is elastic shoelaces and these little clips that you put through them, and their pitch is that you can replace them on your shoelaces, for your shoelaces on your shoes, and never have to tie your shoes again. And I said, you know what, that would be amazing for a skate. So this area is an elastic pull string. So you slide your foot in, you open it up, slide your foot in, and then once you get your foot in, you pull tight. You can see all of the laces getting tight, and then you just slide it on down. and it'll keep your foot nice and secure in the top. Give you a little bit of flex so it's not going to cut off any circulation or anything like that. A little bit of flex, a little bit of movement, but it'll be a nice, solid, supported ride up here. Completely optional if you're not into lacing up your liners. You don't have to use them. It's easy to remove, but it's one of those things that we wanted to provide if somebody wanted it versus somebody wanting it and not being able to do it. Loosen it up a little bit. Second thing, heat moldability. I think heat moldability is really important for a premium liner. You need to be able to get a nice, comfortable fit. The fit should change from foot to foot. So having heat moldable material, especially up in your cuff area, super important. Keeps your foot from moving around because ultimately you don't want any slop inside your boot. So a heat moldable cuff, very, very important. The back has a material that is a non-slip and silent material. This is for keeping your heel from raising inside the boot. We found a bunch of liners that do this, and it is super important. Sometimes they put little dots of like a sticky material, like a glue of sorts that dries and then it sticks to the back. We found that the leather material or the faux leather material, it's not actual leather, but the faux leather material works really well for that purpose, and it's quiet. We were testing some other ones that looked like they would work great, but while skating them, they started making a little bit of a squeaking sound. These skates are very light, so we wanted to use this material. It is a silent material. It works great for heel lift. In addition, we've got a textured bottom that should also prevent your foot from moving around inside the skate. So the heel is for lift, to keep your foot from lifting inside the skate. The bottom is for keeping your foot from moving around inside the skate. Between the two of these, you shouldn't have any issues with your foot inside the boot. It should feel like the skate is attached to your foot, an extension of your foot, and then the wheels are just on the bottom. That is, in my eyes, the optimal feeling for a skate. And then finally, we have a neoprene toe. This is that comfort issue. So each foot is going to be slightly different with length. This liner is a 44 liner, but at the neoprene area, the length is a 43. And what that means is that a 43 would feel great, but also if you've got a 44, you can see my toes, the 44 can push out a little bit. It gives you another 5 to 10 millimeters of length in your toes. And we didn't just put it in the front, we put it on the sides. And this will help with chubbier feet. So if your feet are a little bit taller in the front, the toe box needs to be lifted up a little bit. You've got a little bit more height in the front and a little bit more length. Each of these shells, we have 4 different shell breaks. Each of the shells has a single liner. So we're not doing 2 liners for each shell. It's a single liner for each shell. And each liner should fit 2 different sized feet pretty well. I personally love this fit. This is a really great liner for the way that I like to skate. We do realize that people are not going to want to skate stock liners. Maybe you've already invested in some $200 premium liners that are optimized for performance. One of the big pushes for Standard and our pricing model is we wanted to make sure that we gave people a value. So we didn't want to give you something that you would have to replace, and we didn't want to make you buy something that you weren't going to use. We love these liners. They are probably some of the best stock liners out there, but a lot of people already have liners. So instead, we are making the skates available linerless. So you can buy a complete skate, or you can buy it without the liner, or you can buy it boot only, or you can buy it without the frame. If you're buying it without the liner, it will come in this configuration. So it will be just a complete skate with no liner. So the liner just won't be there. And we will give you a discount so that you don't have to buy the liner. That's just going to sit in your closet. You can also buy it shell only. So this is the shell only version. It has no frame. It has no liner. It will come with the shock absorbers because you won't be able to skate without them. But this is a great way to get in if you don't want to spend a ton of money, you want to try it out, you want to see what the skates are all about, but you've already got frames, you're particular about your wheels, and you've already got a really great set of liners. You don't need to buy all of that stuff again. We will sell you just a shell only, so you'll be able to get into the ecosystem, start skating the skates, try them out without spending a ton of money. All right, so that is our liner. This is the Comfort liner from Standard. Very premium liner. They will be available aftermarket if you can find a shop that sells them. They will be cheaper if you buy them as part of the skate. Pricing changes around the world, but expect to save about $60 if you want to get a complete. Save about $60 if you don't get it with the liner, you use your own liner. If you buy this liner aftermarket, it'll probably be around $80, depending on where you are, of course, in the world. We might have a few of these. It depends on how many people buy shell only. We might have a few of these available. Again, it's a great liner. It fits most skates. Again, for the price, it's really hard to beat for the quality that you get. But really, really cool. I'm really, really happy to have a liner that I really enjoy skating. I've struggled trying to find a liner that I liked that fit my foot perfectly. Has a good flex in the right places. This cuff area is very flexible. It's got the heat moldability. It's got the fit. It's really my favorite part of the skate, to be honest. It feels so good. All right, keeping this liner out, let's take a look at the inside of the skate. So, because it is a raised heel boot, we have a shock absorber. This shock absorber is a custom shock absorber. This is the shock absorber for the 44. The same shock absorber is used in the 546 shell. And then there's another shock absorber that's used for the 42 and the 40. So it's designed for the 40 and it'll scale up to the 42. Reason we didn't go with a generic non-specific shock absorber. If you look at the back and the side, you can see that it angles up. And that's so that it sits perfectly in the boot and provides the best coverage for your foot. So it doesn't ever feel like your foot is off the shock absorber. It's always getting the support that it needs. Why would you use a shock absorber? Well, the reason is that if you look inside the boot, it is completely flat. So some skates have a raised heel. I always like to show my old TRS to show you when that design came out. This is 30-year-old skate or so. And you can see a raised heel skate means that this heel is taller in the back than it is in the front. Now, that is a good thing. You need to have a feeling of leaning forward. When you're walking around on shoes, you usually have a thicker heel than you do in the front. It gives you a little bit of an athletic lean, a little forward lean. It is a comfortable feeling. You need a little bit of a forward lean. Otherwise, it'll feel like you're falling backwards. But the negative to it is this material, this area between where this front area is, where your foot sits, and the boot itself. So in this case, 2 fingers worth of material is just plastic. It's wasted plastic. It's doing nothing for you. It is just air, or it is plastic that's just adding weight and a little bit less of an opportunity for comfort. So back in 2001, Salomon came out with their skates, and their skates were a flat skate. So they, instead of having a raised heel, they had a completely flat skate. Now, the way that they were able to make it so that it still felt good, because if it was a flat skate, it would feel like you were falling backwards a lot. The way they made it so that it felt good is they put a shock absorber inside the skate. So the heel of the skate like our skate, had a raised heel made out of a shock absorbing material. And that is how they accomplished a raised heel forward lean feeling. Now, Salomon used a more thicker material than we use. They used a squishier material than we're using. The beauty, though, is that because this is a removable shock absorber, and because the inside of this skate is completely flat, you can replace this shock absorber with whatever shock absorber you want to use to dial in whatever fit and whatever feeling you want when you're skating. Personally, I like the 10 millimeter feel. I think most skates, we've done a lot of research to find other skates on the market that are using a flat sole, and usually they're around 10 millimeters. And that to me is the most comfortable ride. It feels like I'm just stable. It feels like I'm not falling backwards. I'm not leaning forwards. When I have too much of a heel raise, I feel like I'm leaning forward. I'm digging my toes into the skate, and it feels like I'm just, I don't know, I'm stuck. This to me is the perfect balance, the 10 millimeters. But you do you. Because it is flat in the bottom and because these are removable, you can rip these out and you can put in whatever shock absorbers you want. You might want something a lot thicker. You might want something a lot more padded. That's up to you. You can dial this skate in however you want to make it so that it's perfect for you. And you can experiment. So these are 10 millimeter shock absorbers. It's a brand new mold. We have, so the hardness of this shock absorber determines what sort of ride you're going to have. Now remember, with a raised heel boot like the TRS that I showed you, you didn't have that option. It was plastic. It's always going to be hard if you're skating metal frames, if you're skating aluminum core wheels, if you're doing gaps. You're going to feel every single vibration and every single crack. And when you do a gap, you're really going to absorb all of that shock into your heels. A little bit of a shock absorber goes a long way. This is 50A. So if you look, you can kind of see, I can squish it a little bit. These are the ones that are more for performance. So the white shock absorbers are going to be in the box. They are more for performance. They are 50A, which is a fairly harder material for a shock absorber. Really great for performance, really good for if you want responsiveness, if you want to skate almost like it is a raised heel without any bouncingness or anything like that. If you want most responsiveness, this 50A is the way to go. But we don't have them on hand yet. In the box, we will also have another shock absorber. It will be a black shock absorber, and it will be a 40A. We've measured all the shock absorbers that we could find, and the ones that were more aggressive for more of a bouncy feeling, doing gaps, things like that, were more closer to 40A, and the ones that were more for responsiveness in recreational skates, fitness skates, free skates, those were closer to 50A. So instead of trying to figure out the right balance, we said, why don't we just give you both? So we're going to have a white shock absorber. The white shock absorbers are for the responsiveness. They are 50A, they are harder. You'll be able to tell the difference. And then there's a black shock absorber. The black shock absorbers are for aggressive gaps, getting a little bit more squish if you want that, and they are 40A. And of course, you can try any shock absorbers out there. You can go and buy any other brand that makes a shock absorber, put them in your skates, and you should be able to go out there and skate them. Some liners even come with shock absorbers, so you can use the shock absorbers in your liner. Whatever makes you feel good when you're skating, we're trying to make it flexible so that it's a platform that you can customize however you want. This is also an ergonomic shock absorber. A lot of shock absorbers, it's kind of hard to see in the camera, but a lot of shock absorbers, they start from the back, and then they just are a complete line, like a linear line from the back to the front. In our shock absorber, it actually is flat for about 50 millimeters, I think we did. So this area here is flat. And then from here to here, it angles down. That gives it a little bit more of an ergonomic feel, the way that your foot actually feels, because your heel is going to be in the back, and your heel is this piece of your foot that will sit up here. And we wanted your heel to be completely flat on the shock absorber. And then it angles down to meet with the boot where the rest of your foot, with the ball of your foot, where the toes and everything are. We found this is the best design that we've tested. Available in 2 different hardnesses, 40A for the black, 50A for the white, depending on how you want to ride. If you want a more responsive ride, more like a raised heel boot, or if you want a more comfortable ride, more like a squishy shock absorber. It's really up to you. I recommend you experiment with them when you get your skates. See which ones you like the best. Really easy to replace them. And let us know. I think it would be really curious to see what people end up skating. All right, so that's the shock absorber. What next? Let's talk about the base. So this is kind of our calling card, I guess you would say. This is what people will see, and visually, you know, we tried to make this skate fairly clean and minimal. There are a few lines. There's a line here, just to kind of round out the skate. You can see the line where the flexible area is for the lacing. But the main attraction, what people are drawn to, is this white line. Now, when we were starting to tease this skate, a lot of people were asking, is this a line? Is this a strap? Is this a shock absorber? It looks like this skate is so tall. This sole plate is so thick. Why didn't they make it lower? What's going on with that? Well, let me show you what this line actually looks like. So I have this skate here. This is a cuffless version. This is the line. This is not bolted on, so it looks a little thicker. This is the line, and I'll lift up the skate. You can see how much of the boot is actually hidden inside the sole plate. So you can see it covers the back, so the bottom of the boot is completely flat. This area is covered by a bit of the sole plate, and the back area is covered by a lot of the sole plate. So it slides on, makes it nice and clean. We worked really hard to make this look aesthetically pleasing. Sole plates in general either are too small, and for me, they don't serve the function that they need to serve. You miss soles tricks. I feel not confident when I'm jumping on soles, or for beginners, it's really difficult to learn. We wanted to make it so that it was wide, but it didn't feel like it was wide. And this skate, this is a size 44 skate. This skate, the back of the sole plate and the front of the sole plate curve around with the boot, giving this sole plate a little bit less mass. And it feels like a much smaller sole plate than a sole plate that was just slapped onto the bottom like a lunch tray, like some other skates out there. This line also helps break it apart, and it makes it look much smaller than it really is. So this is what the bottom looks like. Now, let me say, this bottom is painted. I painted this myself. So they sent these samples because they had some issues with the other samples, and I had some issues taking the sole plates off. It's all fixed. They have the new samples coming next week. But I said, hey, I need to be able to demonstrate what it looks like when you take the sole plates off. So they sent me these samples. They were completely black. They had the paint on as the last finishing touch. So I painted these myself, and you can see I did a pretty good job, but the paint isn't great. You can see the paint that I added, I scraped it up a few times. This is not the paint that they put on. This is the paint that I put on. It's acrylic paint. The paint that they put on is more permanent. But that is the problem with paint. So instead, you can paint this whatever color you want. So if you were out there skating, we've designed it so that you're skating white wheels And we have the line matching the wheels. And if you're on the white, you have the black line matching the black wheels. You could paint this bottom section whatever color you want. So if you were skating orange wheels, if you were skating pink wheels, if you were skating blue wheels, if you were skating white wheels, you could paint this whatever color you want. You can match it to your laces. You could match it to your frames. You could match it to whatever you want. But you don't have to use paint. Because this area is protected, because this sole plate completely covers this area, and you can see it's recessed in, you won't get that scrape from skating. You can use whatever material you want. I used paint, which probably wasn't a great idea. But you could also use tape. So this is the camouflage tape that we used for the samples that we were sending out there before we wanted to show anybody what they looked like, but we wanted people to be able to try on the skates and let us know what the fit was like. And instead of showing them what it looked like, we covered it in checkerboard tape. This checkerboard tape can fit perfectly underneath. So you can easily do this. It took me 10 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. You could easily cover this bottom section with tape, with whatever color tape you want. My kids have this crafting washi tape that has cool designs and patterns. Express yourself. Do what you feel would make your skates you. I love this concept. I love being able to customize my skates with whatever. I feel like I'm going to change this out whenever I change out wheels so that I can match my wheels or my frame with the color of the stripe. Still skating a black skate, still skating a white skate, but I can now have a textured bottom. I can have a matching bottom. Whatever you like. It's really up to you once you get them. And it is fully protected, so you're not going to be able to, like, you can't, it's hidden underneath there by 4 millimeters, 3 millimeters. So you're not going to be able to hit that. It won't scrape off. Very, very cool. I hope that when you get your skates, you customize them when you feel like it and you post it on the Instagram and tag us. We would love to share your custom ideas. I think it's going to be really fun to see what people come up with. All right, so that is the painted base. Let's talk about the sole plates. So the sole plates, where's my skate? I can use the white ones, I guess. No, I'll use the black ones. Where's the black ones? Here they are. I took the liners out and I couldn't find them. I talked about the sole plate design and how we made it so that it wrapped around the boot, made it a little bit thinner. Really love this design. Makes the skate look shorter. There's nothing worse than a skate that looks like it's a big skate. This design helps make it look shorter, and even from the sides, it doesn't look that big from the look down. You can barely see the sole plate sticking out, but it is a fairly wide sole plate. So this is the positive, this is the negative. Got my calipers out. So from the frame, calipers at 0. Whoop, where am I at? What's the best way to measure this? Oops. I cannot caliper tonight. Okay, from the frame, it is 44.7. So it is a generous sole, but it doesn't look like it's an extremely big sole. We modeled this sole plate after a few of our favorite skates. So absolutely love the sole plates on the sways, the V1 sways. I think I've been very vocal about that. Had a huge influence on this sole plate. Love the way that it just feels like it's a small lock, doesn't need to be exaggerated. Small radius here for the groove. Lock in really nice and clean. Doesn't need to be wide, just a small divot. That's all that you need. And the width, 45 millimeters, perfect for locking on any grind. A little bit bigger and you might slide out a little bit smaller. And you have a problem hitting sole tricks. We loved the Mesmer sole plates. We tested those. They were around the same width. Feels like that is the sweet spot for a width of a sole plate. So that's what we based them off of. The negative, I'm not sure if we based it off of anything. We just kind of went with what looked good. The negative is 32.8. So say 33 from the frame. So it's about 12 millimeters shorter on the negative than it is the positive. I don't do a lot of negative tricks, but I know that a lot of people do. This should be a nice wide area for your negative. It's not the biggest negative out there. Doesn't need to be, but it does have a pronounced heel in the back. And even the negative is completely flat. You can see this width. So the sides are completely flat. Really great for cess slides, really good for pud slides if that's your thing. And when you're locking on a negative trick, it should feel really nice to lock this with a negative. We did a little bit of research on what makes a sole plate great. We found a few great sole plates out there. One of the things that I feel hasn't been reflected in modern design that we kind of came up with back in the days is an angled sole plate. So for me, a lot of sole plates are completely flat on the bottom. And that's fine. It works okay. No big deal. For me, the less material that you get on there, the better. And when you're skating a rail or when you're skating coping, having a flat sole plate can actually push you off of the obstacle if you don't lock perfectly. So we've added a juice angle. So this is what people would call a juice angle. I would call it a juice angle. It is an angle that starts from the bottom here towards the frame and then it goes up. So you can see the angle going up. Very slight angle, but it's raised up out here. And we've also done it on the negative. So if you were trying to do the fastest negative tricks that you can, we have a little bit of an angle on the negative as well. Now, what does this do? First of all, it helps with the lock. It helps when you lock on a rail. Brought my rail out today. Did my homework a little bit. When you lock on a rail, if you're just locking straight and the sole plate is flat, there's more potential for you to slip off. If you're locking with a slight angle, you can already see that this sole plate goes over this rail a little bit and locks you on because it's got like a kind of a hook that locks you on the rail. And then if you start rolling your foot over, boning your foot over, you're going to lock on really nice, really solid. Again, it's a completely flat lock. That's what it looks like when it's locking on. So not only does it provide a good lock, but it also keeps the resistance down. There is a trend, has been a trend, of putting divots, some people call them speed divots, into the bottom of the sole. And this reduces the amount of material that touches the obstacle. The problem that I've found is that if you skate enough, those divots end up filling up with dirty wax. So you can look at the bottom of your skates and you'll see dirt in your wax that, you know, when you're skating ledges, you're skating rails, anything with wax, over time it's going to build up, especially if it's a completely flat sole and it doesn't have an angle to it. Over time it just builds up and you get this almost like a speed bump underneath your sole of dirty wax. Instead of doing that, we made the sole angled. That means that you're grinding on less material and it will grind down a little bit faster at this less material, but you will have more time to grind and it will still be less and less and less and less than trying to grind the entire thing. We've made these sole plates a little bit thicker than they needed to be. Now, why would we do that? The main reason, let me show you what the sole plate looks like off of the skate. I'll use the white one. Yeah, I'll use the white one. So we made these sole plates a little bit thicker than they needed to be. So this area here is a little bit thicker. You can see that. The reason why we made it thicker is because we wanted to make sure that these would last. There is nothing worse than doing cess slides or royales on crunchy ledges for a day and then come to find out that you've worn through all the way into your boot. As Eric Garcia would say, cess slides are a rich man's trick. And I fully support that. Cess slides wear through your skates really quickly. This is a fairly thick area. You're not going to wear through this anytime soon. We do have for replacement sole plates, but you're not going to wear through this anytime soon. Now, by making the sole plate thicker, this area up here is thicker, that means that we've raised the rise height a little bit. So we could make it a lot lower. We raised the ride height a little bit. That is maybe a compromise that we were willing to make. Two things about that. First of all, ride height, I feel, is a little overrated. I don't think that people are going to really feel the difference between 3 millimeters and 4 millimeters or 2 millimeters and 5 millimeters when it comes to ride height. If you look at some of the fitness skates or rec skates, you've got a very tall ride height. These are still very, very low ride height. But to combat the ride height that we've added by making this sole plate thicker, we've made this area completely open on the inside for the wheel wells to stick up above the skate, above the sole plate. So this is something that you see in modern sole plates where they have the recess area in the front and the back. I would credit Cletus over at Wish for making this a thing, a standard, you could say, a thing that people should do. I know that they did it in the rollerblade, what were they called? The 0.5s, I think, the 0.9s? I'm not sure what they were called. But they had the switch frame, I think they called it. They had a frame where the wheels would come up inside. So they might have been the first people to do it, at least that I know of, but definitely the Wish frame was the catalyst that had the industry change and start making their sole plates with a recess area for the front and the back. We're taking that a step further, like a few other brands, and making this whole area open. Why would you want to do that? Well, the reason you want to do that is because if you have a frame and the wheels are taller than the frame, you can now put that frame on and the wheels will extend above, making the ride height even lower, making a lower center of gravity for when you skate. With our sole plates, not only can you skate Wish frames out the box with 72s on the outside but 60s on the inside, but if you're interested in skating big wheels, we make a frame called the Compass frame. The Compass frames are available in 72 millimeter and 80 millimeter. You can ride a 72 millimeter frame, but use 80 millimeter wheels. So those 80 millimeter wheels will extend into these holes in the front and the back and in the middle on a 72 millimeter frame and give you an extremely low center of gravity for big wheeling if you want to go out there and bomb some hills or skate around your neighborhood on 80 millimeter wheels. Continuing with the sole plate. This sole plate took months and months and months of design, so forgive me if I am dragging on, but there's a lot to cover here. We've also added, and this wasn't shown, but we've also added a shock absorber on the inside of the sole plate. So this is a 2 millimeter EVA foam. This is a squishy foam. You can see. Does it do a lot for shock absorbing? Probably not. I think the main lift of shock absorber is our shock absorber. After that, I think skating softer wheels, maybe with a smaller core, will help with shock absorption. I don't think this is going to make a ton of difference from shock absorption. What it does do is it cuts down a lot of noise. So I would almost consider this a dampener. So when you're skating, you don't hear anything. These skates are extremely silent. It is a 2mm EVA foam. It lines up perfectly with everything. These are on all skates. So when you put it on, you will just bolt it on. You won't know the difference, but you can even hear here, like there's no movement on the thing. The padding is under there. It makes it feel really nice and really silent. Let's talk about the mounting. So the mounting is really interesting. I actually have, I found this while I was looking through my my old stash, trying to prepare for tonight. I've been thinking about this mounting system for 25 years, which is crazy to think, because I know there might be some people out there watching who might not be 25 years old, but I've been doing this a long time. I've been thinking about a way to mount a frame in a low profile way that doesn't damage the boot, that won't create a spinning hazard, that will provide as much support as possible for a long time. And I'm thrilled to finally be able to do something about it. So I actually found the drawings. Let me share these drawings with you. And forgive me, these drawings are bad. I printed them from an old file that I found on my archives Dropbox. But here's the drawing. I did this drawing in 1998. So this was our design for what we called the U-bolt. So the U-bolt was pre-UFS. This is something that I've been thinking about since before UFS. The U-bolt was designed to help with our base plates. So we were pioneers with having aftermarket frames on boots. We worked with USD to put them on the Thrones. We worked with Remedy and Kato to put them on the Remedies. We put them on Razors. We put them on Solomons. We put them on Majestic 12s. We put them on a variety of skates. And the biggest thing that we ran into was when we popped out those old rivets to get the frames out, we needed a way to put new rivets in. And we're not going to send people a rivet gun. So instead, we came up with anti-rivets, which were just these little T-nuts that had a threaded area up top, a barrel that comes up, and then the way that it affixed to the boot, initially it had these little bubbles, and the bubbles would kind of push into the boot. The problem is, when you would screw down that bolt, the bubbles wouldn't bite into anything. They would just spin on the inside of the boot. So for the first production of the Julio USD Thrones, the first USD Throne that came with a 50/50 frame, we had these thimbles made out of duct tape that you would push up in there with your thumb, and you would hold that little T-nut in, and you would screw in the bolt. It was a really bad design. We moved on to something with teeth. So the barrel, the T-nut dug up into the boot, and it had little teeth that come up. And that's the sort of thing that you see nowadays. Well, you'll see, I actually have one on the floor, I think. Oh, this isn't it. Oh, I thought that was one of them. You'll see them before. They have a little T-nut. It's a little barrel, and then there's teeth that pop up, slide into the little hole. You screw them down, and then the teeth affix into the boot. Problem with that, first, I don't like the idea of damaging a boot with the teeth. I just think it's unnecessary. Second thing is, if the teeth don't bite properly, you're going to get some spin. And if you're using a small, like an M2, I guess, bolt, M4 bolt, that head is going to be very small. It's like a 2mm hex key. Trying to get that out with Loctite is really difficult. You end up stripping them, and if you can get them out, sometimes they spin on the inside. So we wanted to avoid that. That's why we came up with the U-bolt. This was the U-bolt. So what you would do with the old 50/50 base plates is we would use one of these, you'd slide it in the bottom, and then you screw the tops, and there was no way for it to spin. In addition, it would give it a much more responsive, like solid lock, because it would have a base plate that went across holding those two bolts in. Now, we never made this. By the time we started designing this and putting it into the market and thinking about how we would make it happen, that's when Solomon approached us and said, hey, let's do a frame standard. And we shelved this whole idea because the concept of having base plates was never needed anymore. Fast forward 25 years and I'm designing a skate and it's using a similar system. So I can't take credit for the whole system. We never built the thing. The first time I saw it being used was in the Thems. So Thems started using it about 3 years ago, I think. They call them bridge hardware. Very similar concept to what I'm doing. I don't think John ever knew what this was. I think he came up with the idea by himself. So, but old ideas never die. I think it's great to see it finally come to fruition. Before then, Adapt was using it in a very interesting way, which I think is kind of the best way imaginable. Not only did Adapt use this U-bolt as their base plate mounting hardware, base plate mounting system, but they also had a third one in the middle. So our design only had two, which was for like a base plate, and then there would be a T-nut that went in the middle, attaching the base plate to the frame. Adapt used a third in the middle. So they had 3 barrels. They all worked together. Brilliant idea. I was a big fan of Adapt. I didn't realize that they were using that system until I started taking apart their skate. And I'm like, this is exactly what they should be doing. So it's one of those aha moments where you're like, that's the way to do it. So all credit to Adapt for really pioneering this system. We are not compatible with Adapt. Our system is slightly different. It's a little bit wider. It's a little bit thinner in a few areas, thicker in a few areas. But these are what our T-nuts look like. So this is the inside of each of the skates. So there's one in the front, one in the back. You can see how it correlates. I'll show you the sole plate. You can see how it correlates to the sole plate. So we got 3 in the front and 3 in the back. And this is our T-nut. It is 45 millimeters from left to right. So this mounting area is 45 millimeters across. Now the channel for UFS is 41 millimeters. So it is a little bit outside of UFS. You can still fit, use the black one here. Let's use the white one, it's easier to see. Oh, I don't have a white one with a frame on it anymore. Do I? I should. I do. Oh, I do. You can still see. So if you had a Allen key, you could still get in there and get to that. If you ever wanted to tighten your bolts, you could access each of them without taking the frame off. And this is with our stock frame. Some frames are skinnier than others. Some frames are thicker than others. With our stock frames, you're able to get your bolt in and still adjust it. 45 millimeters across. That is what we're working with. And this is what the material is. It is 2 millimeters thick. It uses 12 millimeter M6 bolts on the outside. So these are 12 millimeters. These are the bolts, custom bolts that we had made. Very small head, very thin head. 12 millimeters. And then in the middle, it is a 20 millimeter frame bolt. These are standard frame bolts. They are M6 bolts. The same bolts that every skate uses, almost every skate uses for UFS. And that is how you mount the boot, the frame to the boot. So you've got your 1, 2, 3 bolts. We have 2 of those inside the skate. The bottom of the boot, I'll show you this one. This is the painted one, so it looks a little funky. Actually, I'll use this one. It's a little easier to demonstrate. Where is it, this one? This is the one that I painted, remember, not finished, but the bottom of this, if you look on the inside, you can see there's a recess area. The bottom of this fits flush inside, and you can see it is completely flush. And that is why we're using 20 millimeter frame bolts instead of the traditional 14 millimeter, because it is going completely through the sole plate. So the sole plate would mount on, where did I put the sole plate? The sole plate would mount on the bottom here. using these 12mm bolts. Mounts on the outside. And then your frame mounts on top after you mount the sole plate on. Frame mounts on top using the 20mm bolt in the middle. It is a very good ride. It is very responsive. These things are fierce. You cannot bend them. They are very thick. It is a custom design. You can see the back of them uses actual T-nuts instead of trying to thread the thread into this material itself. It is a welded T-nut that goes into this itself, so it won't spin, it won't break. And if, for whatever reason, you thread these, they will be available to purchase if you need a replacement. Really easy to replace if you need to. Let's see. So we talked about the mounting. We'll put all this online so that you have reference if you ever need it. Brings me to my next point. I never mentioned this, but this is definitely for a more skate geeky audience. I think this is probably the right place to talk about it. Does anybody have any guesses what this is? Any guesses? Look at the bottom. What does that look like? So this is this. The white area of this is this. So if you take the sole plate with this, these are a 3D printed sample of what the base of the sole plate looks like. So we used a lot of 3D printing for designing our sole plates. We used a lot of 3D printing for designing the entire project, for going through the sizing, for designing the frames that I haven't even gotten to yet, for designing the hardware. All of that stuff was done with 3D printers. I own 50/50. I was a big proponent of 3D printing with the core system. That is our frame mounting frame system that uses the core and walls, molded walls in an aluminum core. And we've been advocates of 3D printing. And we have open sourced the core system too, so that people could make whatever walls they want. They use the same common core, either at 250, 270, or 290 millimeters. And you can make whatever walls you want because we've open sourced that design, so everybody is using the same design. We're doing the same with our sole plates. So if you want to make your own sole plates, the biggest problem about making sole plates is figuring out what the base of the boot is like, what this measurement is, what this profile is, what this path is, how high to make it, all of that stuff. We will give it to you. So you can look at this. This was printed on our printers here at the warehouse. It was printed upside down. This is a support in the front, but it creates a flat area. You can see the curve, and our sole plate fits on this 3D printed model. And you'll be able to use this in your sole plate design to print whatever sole plates you want. So maybe you love our sole plates. They are amazing sole plates. They will make all of your Royales like butter, and they will lock every sole that you've ever wanted. But people like different things. So instead of saying these are the only sole plates that you can fit on this skate, we're going to say, we're going to give you the model for the bottom of this skate. This whole white painted area is right here. We're going to give this to you. You make whatever you want. And it will fit. If your sole plate fits this model, your sole plate will fit on any Omni skate. We're not going to be doing a shop for this. We're not going to be making any sole plates. I've got enough on my plate right now to do with the core frame printing. I'm not going to be making a sole plate market. But if you want to get involved, if you are a designer, if you have an idea of how to make a sole plate, if you want to learn how to make a sole plate, anything that you can dream up, I've got a great boot for you. I've got a model for you. You can throw this into your sole plate and start carving your way into whatever sole plate you want, and it will fit beautifully with our skates. You'll be able to print them and sell them yourself. We will link to anybody out there who tags us that's working on sole plates. We want to promote this community. Again, this isn't just for us. This is for everyone. We want this to be a system that is future-proof. So the way that we start doing that is by opening things up so that people can design their own sole plates for it. These will be available before launch. It's going to take a few weeks for me to finish up all of the drawings and get the developer kit ready. I'll probably put together a sample sole plate so that you have something to start off of. I will warn you, if you are a designer out there and you've never done lofts and you've never done proper 3D, I guess proper is kind of the wrong term, but if you've never done multi-directional 3D modeling, this is a pretty complicated thing. It took me months to learn, and I'm a pretty smart dude. Again, it might come really easily for you. Don't feel like you can take your frame development knowledge and transfer it over to a sole plate. It's going to look pretty bad. But you can sure try. You can download this model, you can go out there, you can throw it into your 3D development system. Fusion 360 works just fine. Drop this in there, expand the model a little bit, cut out a block, and then just start refining your sole plate so that you can make whatever you want. We will have these available before launch so that you can go out there and test them, play with them, and try your own sole plates. Sole plates are actually pretty good if you 3D print them. I still recommend PLA+. It's a great material, great filament for printing, but it is hard to make a sole plate. I give you a lot of respect if you can make it happen. I don't want to stand in the way, so I'm going to make sure that you have everything that you need to get your sole plates working on our skates. All right, let's see. Talked about mounting, talked about sole plates, talked about boots, talked about liners. Let's talk about the frames. Talk about the frames. I'm all about frames. So let's see. Brand new frame. So this is the Omni, this is the standard aggressive frame. Omni is the boot. The aggressive frame comes on the Omni boot. The comfort liner comes in the Omni boot, but this is the Omni boot. This is a all-purpose frame. So this is designed for the person who doesn't know what they want to do. When you look at a breakdown of customers, you kind of put people into two different buckets. So either they're completely new, or they don't really have an opinion, and they want to get some skates. And maybe they've heard of us, maybe they've heard of somebody else, they go to a shop, they try them on, or maybe they've seen one of my videos, or they've seen somebody skating them, and they click on a link and they get to a shop and they say, oh, I want to get some new skates. That is the market that this frame is designed for. The other market is, I already know what I want. I've got some Creates, I've got some Wish frames, I've got some Prime frames, I got some Justin Thursday, whatever those icon frames are called, I can't remember. They know what they want. They don't need frames. They're going to buy it boot only. Hell, sometimes they're just going to buy it linerless, and they're just going to buy the shell only. But if you want to make a good stock frame, I think it needs to fit a general purpose. So this frame is designed for a general market. It is really good for anti-rocker, but it's exceptionally good for flat. There's a few things that kind of come out. First of all, it is based on the Balance 2. I used the same initial model that I built the Balance 2 out of, but I tweaked it so that it was not reminiscent of the Balance 2. It is the same distance, the same split as the Balance 2, but that's where the similarities end. Actually, the internal support system, this is still Balance 2. But that's where the similarities end. Everything else is the new standard aggressive frame. So first of all, it has a raised sidewall, which is completely flat. It doesn't have juice bumps like the other one. It doesn't have the tapered thing like a prime frame. It is just a raised wall, so it has recessed axles and has a little bit thicker area on the walls. The axles are two-sided, so they are not one-sided balance frame core axles. They are two-sided axles. They use 2 Allen keys. The reason for that is that while I love the one-sided axles, we do get some returns due to damage. One-sided axles, if you turn them enough and you keep tightening them down, eventually will end up spinning inside the frame. And that's not a problem. I think the benefits outweigh the negatives. But for a stock frame, I don't want anybody to have any problems replacing their wheels. I don't want anybody damaging their frames unless they're out there skating. They shouldn't damage their frames setting up their skates. So we're using 8mm axles. They are 14mm head. They should fit all skates out there, every frame out there, but specifically they're designed for our frame. They are two-sided. They use an M6 bolt, 4mm hex key, baseline what every axle uses on the industry. The anti-rocker wheels, so they will come with every skate. So if you order an Omni from a skate shop, if you order an Omni from me, all of the skates will come with the frames with the anti-rocker wheels pre-installed. Black frames come with white anti-rocker wheels. White frames come with black anti-rocker wheels. Even if you get a flat setup, you could pay us at balance or pay the shop to swap out your wheels. But if you buy a flat setup, we'll just throw extra wheels in the box. They will come with the anti-rocker wheels. These are stock. These are the way that they come installed from the factory. They are a brand new anti-rocker wheel. So instead of buying UHMW anti-rocker wheels and spending a lot of money there, we invested in a brand new mold for an anti-rocker wheel because we wanted to make sure that everybody had anti-rocker wheels that they could use. These are the standard anti-rocker wheels. They are 44mm. They are a beautiful profile. So it is flat up top, tapered down. It is curved on the edges. You know, if you've seen this show before, you know how much I hate these little plastic anti-rocker wheels with a few exceptions. And the exceptions are the ones that have an actual angle, that are trying to be anti-rocker wheels instead of trying to be a flat surface, a flat grinding surface. That flat grinding surface is what causes the squeaks when you're skating ledges, skating anti-rocker on ledges. These are completely silent. They are made out of the same material as our frames. It is a glass-filled nylon. It is the same material as a frame. It will slide just as fast as our frame. So if you are learning and you're skating these anti-rocker wheels and you end up on top of the ledge more than you should, don't worry about it. They will slide as quickly as the frames will slide. They use the little silver barrels. They do not clack around. We made sure that the width is perfect, so they will fit perfectly in the frame. They don't really spin. They kind of spin. The metal is there to keep it from pinching too much, keep it more of a uniform width. They are not designed for spinning. If you want spinning axles, 50/50 makes a great UHMW one. There's a lot of other companies that make a great anti-rocker wheel. These are free anti-rocker wheels that come with every frame purchase so that you don't have to pull out the middle wheels if you don't have anti-rocker wheels. Now, everybody will have an anti-rocker wheel set up. Throw them in your bag. If you want to skate anti-rocker, you'll have them available so that you can skate them. The groove is designed for flat and anti-rocker. So how did we do that? So first of all, this chamfer is very deep, which means that when you're locking on a ledge, I have my 2x4 here. When you're locking on a ledge, you will lock on. So this is a deep groove. So even if you're skating anti-rocker, you will lock on. You won't have any problem hitting that groove. It moves around a little bit, but it doesn't slop around. It locks into your groove. But the H block is very tight. So it might look, if you're not paying attention, it might look like this has a very, very narrow groove, but it actually doesn't. It's a very deep groove. You can see the very deep groove. But the H block is very narrow. Now, why would that matter? Because when you're skating flat, you want as much distance as possible from the grinding surface to the middle wheels. So by making a small H block and a tight groove, you provide a more effective distance without having a huge split. I don't have a flat setup here. I should have brought a flat setup. But you can see when you're skating now, you can see on this, that if you're skating flat, it is in this groove area. Oops, is it blurry? There, that's my good. So it stays on the H block instead of going really deep into where this groove is. Now, how are we able to do that? Because instead of making the H block the full width of the frame, like other people would, we made the H block more narrow. You could see this H block. So the inside of the frame, wheels are 24 millimeters. So a wheel is 24 millimeters. Ooh, up. There it goes. 23.4 millimeters. The inside, probably around 28, 27.7. Now typically, the H block would be that wide, but here, our H block is actually only 18 millimeters wide. So the effective grind area is much wider when you're skating for a big groove, so you won't miss out on any rocker. But for flat, where it's actually hitting the surface, it's smaller and further away from the wheels. I have been skating these, I think I mentioned, I've been skating these for a while now. Let me bring down my skates. Oh, I've been skating these for a while now, skating them flat. These are the Chroma 58 millimeter wheels. These are what they look like flat. These are flat 58s. Absolutely loving them. I haven't had any issues with wheel bite. I'm able to do back farve, which was my biggest difficult trick, trying to skate flat, doing back farves. No problems doing back farves, no problem doing back royales. I was doing back slides at the warehouse this weekend. It is a really great frame, really great H block. And this is what they look like with flat. So 58 millimeter wheels. These are the same wheels. These are the same wheels that we're currently making as Chroma team wheels. So it is our brand new 58 millimeter rounded profile. They're made from the same factory. It is premium aftermarket urethane. So these are wheels that you're actually going to want to skate. One of the things I already talked about was value, making sure that people, when they buy a skate, they can use every part and they're not being forced to buy things that they're just going to throw in a closet or are going to break, knowingly going to break. A lot of skates provide OEM wheels on their skates that are horrible. They will fall apart in an hour. They don't hold up to any level of skating, let alone somebody who knows what they're doing. So skaters who know what they're doing already budget an additional $40 into their purchase, knowing that they're going to need to get new wheels, knowing that the wheels that came on their skates are going to be bad. Who is this frame for? Who buys this skate? Where did it go? Somebody already bought it. Who buys this skate with a complete setup with a ready-to-roll frame? It's people who don't know what they're doing. It's people who don't know that wheels are supposed to be replaced, that the OEM wheels that they get are going to be bad. Now, not every skate company does this, mind you, but there have been a lot. And I never want to be that skate company. I want somebody to always associate Standard with wheels, frames, boots, liners. Everything is quality. Everything is worth purchasing. You're never going to get something from Standard that you just don't need. You're never going to buy something, except for these anti-rocker wheels, but they're free. You're never going to get something from Standard that you don't want, that you're just going to throw in the closet and say, you know what, I know that I can't skate these. I'm never going to want these. We will make sure that you only buy things that you need. And these wheels are quality wheels. I've been skating in them for 4 months. I've been skating these, where'd it go? I've been skating these for 4 months. These are 58 millimeter 90A wheels. These are the same wheels. And they are great wheels. They will feel good. They will ride good. These are the wheels when somebody buys them and doesn't know anything about it and sees these skates at a skate shop and says, I want those skates. These are the wheels that people are going to still enjoy and have a great experience with, and not blame Standard because their skates suck, because their wheels fell apart in an hour. These wheels are not going to fall apart. I'm really, really proud to be able to do that. And we were able to do that because we buy a ton of wheels. We work with a factory that is conveniently located in an area that can contact the factory and not cost an arm and a leg to get the wheels to them. And we buy so many that we could make it affordable for us to do. Brand new mold. We've only used this mold for our Chroma team wheels. This is a 58 millimeter rounded profile. It's a really beautiful mold. Works great for anti-rocker. I've been skating them flat, absolutely love them. Fast, responsive, good maneuverability. Possibly the best OEM wheels that you're going to find. If you want the wheels and you want the frame, they are only available as a complete. So we will not be selling these frames aftermarket. If you want this frame, if you want these wheels, if you want this setup, it is only available in the ready-to-roll setup. We don't want to compete with wheel companies. We don't want to compete with frame companies. We want to be a skate company. We want to sell you skates. We want to sell boots. We want to sell liners. We want to sell frames. But we only want to sell those if we're selling a skate. I think there are a lot of frames out there that have lost their value. They are great frames. They are worth $60, $70 like an aftermarket frame would be. But because they've been given away for so many years, and because people have multiples and weren't given an option to buy boot only, they end up being discounted. And you end up seeing them as a ready-to-roll setup for $60, or frame only for $20. Or make it worse, you buy this with the liner. You buy this setup. This is how pricing works. You buy this setup, I lace it up. You buy this setup with the liner actually in there. You buy this setup complete for $300. And if you want them boot only, it's no problem. It's $280. So this frame effectively is $20. That doesn't make any sense to me. So we're trying to be completely transparent with our pricing. All of our products are great, and we're going to make sure that they retain their value. If you want to buy these frames, you can definitely find them in the aftermarket, but you're going to pay a premium for them because we're not going to make them readily available. You'll only be able to get these frames and wheels if you buy a complete set. And I recommend that you get them. I think, again, for the value, they are an amazing skate with this frame. They are designed around this frame in mind. These wheels are great. You do you. You've got your opinions on what skates you want and what frames you want. We're not going to tell you how to skate. We are going to say that we make really great products. At the price, it is a great deal for what you get, and you should definitely give them a shot. But don't change your mind afterwards and say, get yourself a boot only and want to try these frames, because you're going to have to pay a premium in the third-party market on Blade Trade, or if you find them from a shop, maybe a shop can part them out, because they will be more expensive than if you just bought them as a complete. The wheels also come with ABEC 9 bearings, so they are not the same as any of our other bearings. They are an ABEC 9 bearing that we found at our factory that works really well. Very similar performance to the 5050 greased bearings that we have. They are not chrome shielded, they are plastic shielded, but they work great for keeping the dirt out. They are fast, they are smooth, and they will be on all of the wheels that roll. And then again, the anti-rocker wheels, these will be in each of the frames. They will come in each of the frames, so you'll be able to get those with the complete setups. What haven't I talked about? That might actually be it. I think from the top to the bottom, I covered everything. What did I miss? I'll show you the white one. So they do come in two colors. They come in black and white. Each of these sole plates is interchangeable. It is the common Omni mold, so you can swap the sole plates with the other skates if you want. You could swap the frames around. They are all UFS. Wheels, obviously. We do have a skate configurator on our website, so you can go and pick out what boot you want. You can pick out what sole plate color you want, swap them around, see what they look like with black. I've seen a lot of really cool all black boot with a white sole plate. Looks really good with white frames. And you could do the same with a black boot with white sole plate, black frames, white sole plates, white frames. There's a lot of great options out there. There are shops that will do the swap for you for a couple of bucks. We'll probably do the same thing. I think it's $5 at Loco right now, maybe $8 if you want to swap out the sole plates. It's really easy to do though. You can order extra sole plates at home. They will be $60 for a replacement sole plate. Trying to keep it normal with the market. $60 is around what most sole plates end up being. So replaceable sole plates will be $60. You'll be able to buy the complete skate this Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern, from shops all around the world. The skates are $2.99. All of this amazing functionality, features. Who would have thought you could get a skate like this for less than $300? It's an incredible deal. $2.99 for the Standard Omni. The launch of the Standard Omni should be in November. We are at the whim of China and shipping. So I say November, they've told us November. That doesn't mean it's going to be November. Again, knock on wood, we get them here in November. We will keep you updated as we go through production. It is a factory, it is our first production. There is bound to be something go wrong. There's bound to be some delays. But I'm going to keep you updated on our dates. If you're looking for skates now and you need to start skating because your skates are broken, these aren't the skates for you. You're going to have to wait. But if you can wait a little bit, you want to try these new skates, absolutely love to get them on your feet. They'll be available for pre-order this Saturday. For the first week, we will honor all pre-orders and we will make sure that they are part of the first production. So that means if you can't wake up Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, maybe you're in Hawaii, maybe you're in California and you had a rough night Friday. I'm not going to say judge you or anything. You order whenever you can. You've got a full week to place your order, and this counts for any shop around the world. Our website, any shop around the world, you place your order within the first week, you will be guaranteed to get your skates on the first shipment. We will make sure that anybody who pre-orders will get their skates on the first shipment. So you don't have to order bright and early on Saturday. First come, first serve, of course. It's going to take a while for us to go through all of the orders. So if you want to get your skates first, order first. But if you want to make sure that you get your skates on the first order, you got a whole week. I know that payday comes on Friday sometimes. Maybe it's not this Friday, maybe it's next Friday. We will sort you out. We'll make sure that you get them if you want them. They are available in 3 main configurations. They will be available as a complete skate. This is $2.99. They will be available boot only. So without the frames and the wheels, this is $2.19. So you'll save $80 if you don't get the frames and you don't get the wheels. And you'll also be able to get them shell only. Shell only includes everything that you see here, plus all the hardware that you need. So it will include the mounting hardware for the UFS bolts It will include both of the shock absorbers, the aggressive shock absorber and the responsive shock absorber. They'll both be performance shock absorber. They'll both be in the box, so you'll be able to skate them with whatever liners you want, whatever frames you want. These will be $159, I think, $160. So our liners are going to be $60 off. So you can subtract. We're trying to make the numbers make sense. You start with $300. You subtract $80 for the frame and wheels. That brings you down to $220, $219. You subtract $60 for the liner. That brings you down to $160, so $159 for shell only. And includes laces as well, and the buckle and everything. All in all, I think that it is going to be a great value for whatever level you're at. I love the idea of having a skate for each price point. You know, I think $300 is a great price point for a premium skate. And I will say, I've skated a lot of skates. These are a premium skate. They feel like a premium skate. But not everybody wants to spend $300 on a skate. Maybe you've already got a liner that you like. Maybe you've already got frames that you like. Getting a shell only for $160. Bringing in your own liners. Get yourself some other ready-to-roll frames that are on sale now. You can get into an Omni for less than $200 and then just enjoy what I feel is the best skating experience possible. I think that's everything. I think I covered everything. I'm absolutely overjoyed with all of the support. I want to thank especially Stefan Brando. He's been the mastermind behind the art direction, the visuals, the design of Standard, the branding of Standard. He has been putting in the work. He's an amazing dude. Love you, Stefan. Amazing response to the work that you've done. I hope that you are proud. I know that I am proud of you. I couldn't do this without you. The rest of the team, you know who you are. You will know who they are soon. We are getting their skates to them next week, so they'll be able to actually start skating their sizes. They've helped with the fit tests. They've helped with all of the design of things and the feedback to make sure that everything is dialed in, but sadly they haven't been able to get their skates yet because we just finished the molds this week. So they will be on the skates soon. You will see a team video coming soon. It depends on how quickly we can get them, but you will see team video coming soon with the announcement. You know who you are. Thank you so much for being part of it. Huge thanks to Ryan Timms. Ryan is a good friend here in the Triangle in Durham area. He did the video shoot for the documentary. He's been an amazing help. If you haven't seen the videos, you've just got to check it out. He does incredible documentary work. And I'm very privileged to have him in my life. Just amazing. Of course, want to thank my family, my lovely wife who takes care of the kids while I am out doing my stupid rollerblading things. It's been an amazing, 17 years that we've been married? I think 18 years? I can't even remember. My oldest is 16 now, so I think we got married 2 years before we had a kid. So sounds like 18. That's a good number. Marriage is great. Love marriage, but you start forgetting dates after about 10 years. I think 10 is like the cool cutoff, and then you kind of forget. I think we're at 18. I don't know. But I love you. I love my family. And definitely love the community. Thanks, everybody, for all the support. Slack community, my local Triangle skating community, the YouTube community, Instagram community, everybody who's ever mentioned anything that they don't like about skating, that they do like about skating, you have been part of this design. You have been part of this. I take in all of the feedback. It's been 3 years of listening and writing things down and making notes and doing sketches to come up with what's now the Standard Omni. It took everybody's help, and you didn't know it, but I was listening, and I hope that this skate is perfect for you. I know that this is the perfect skate for me. I can't wait to see what you guys do with it. All right, let me get some water. I usually do questions before this segment, but if you have any questions, anything that I didn't hit, I would love to answer your questions. Please tag back to Blading if you're watching this live. If you're watching this in the future, please leave a comment. First of all, I hope that the pre-orders go good. We don't have any crazy computer issues if you're watching in the future. Please leave a comment on the video if you have any questions that I don't address. I'm an open book. I'll tell you as much as I can. I'm extremely proud of this. There's a lot going on with this skate. I would say this is probably the most detail-oriented skate there is. I don't think, especially for what we do, I don't think there's another skate that's been stressed on for every angle, every width, every durometer, every material as much as this skate. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you. I'm going to drink some water, rest a little bit, catch my breath, and then I will get answering your questions. All right. It is 11 o'clock. I've been going for 2 hours. That is great. Joe Ferreira, are you going to go on Jump Street with Austin Pass? I don't know. I'd love to be on. Love Austin, love Billy. Schedules are weird. This next couple of weeks is going to be crazy for me. Big supporter of the show though. So if I am on, I hope that you will come in the live stream and super chat for us. Austin, awesome work, Law. I'm hyped for you. Can't wait to see them on the streets. Thank you so much, Austin, for all the support and love. It's great. It's great to actually have a skate that you can skate yourself that you've built. It's a weird feeling. Hope that you get a set to try them out. I know that you like flat sole boots with a shock absorber, so they might be perfect for you, but we'll have to see. Zach Smith, how do the shells do with downsizing? That's an excellent question, something that I never really got into. We do have a sizing chart on the website. So if you go to standardskate.co, you can see the sizing chart. You can actually download the sizing charts. So we're doing something a little different where we are posting our sizing charts as a PDF. So you can download this, you can print it out at home. And this is a legal paper, but you can print it into A4 or you can print it into 8.5 by 11 and tape them together. You put this on the floor and you step on it and you can see what length your foot is compared to our shell break. So we have 4 shell breaks, 271, 282, 295, and 310. Those are the numbers of the internal length of the shell. Now, obviously, if you have a liner, the liner is going to take up some of that length. So if your foot was 295 millimeters long, you wouldn't want to get the 295 millimeter shell because then you wouldn't have any room for a liner. Our liners are around 10 millimeters thick all the way around. So for our suggested sizing, we subtract 10 millimeters from that internal measurement. So 310 would end up being a 300 millimeter suggested sizing if you're using stock liners. Now, our liners are comfort liners. They are not performance liners. If you wanted to downsize using performance liners, dense, thin foam, you could definitely downsize into something. So instead of using 10 millimeters as your gap, measure your liners, see how thick your liners are, and then downsize by that amount. So if you were 310 and maybe your liners are 3 millimeters thick versus 5 millimeters thick. 3 millimeters all the way around equals 6. So you could get into a 304 if your foot was 304. There's a lot of room for downsizing. It just depends on which liners you're going to bring. But that's why we posted our internal measurements so that you can at least measure your feet, put your liners on top. So you could take your liner and you can say, okay, this liner, poof, oh, this fits with the 295 shell because this is a 285 liner. You can do that at home, see which one fits you best, and then you'll know which shell to order. Great question. I should have brought that up during, I am kicking myself for not doing it, but thank you for bringing it up. Austin, we'd love to have you on. Let me know. Absolutely huge fan. So thank you. Thank you. Sasha, thanks for joining. I know that it's Europe. It's late over there. Super chat. How do you feel personal now after release? You can finally share everything. I mean, you know me pretty well. You can tell it's been 3 years of work, you know. What started as I'll go into the details of the history of the project eventually. We were going to do a carbon skate. That was my initial idea. And learned quickly that carbon skates were a very niche market. And in order to do something that wasn't already being done, I'd have to completely reinvent things. And I didn't have the idea to do that. You know, I love the USD Carbons. I love the Adapt Stealth. The Factions are out now. There are plenty of good options for carbon skates. And I felt like with a plastic skate, I could reach more people. You know, $300 is a great price point. I could reach more people, and I could ultimately sell more skates, which means that I could get more people out there skating. That's why I started with a plastic shell. But it's very expensive. So when you're doing carbon, you don't have a huge upfront cost. With these, each of these shells is extremely expensive. And each shell, so if you look at this boot only has 1, 2, 3 custom molds, not including the shock absorber, not including our mounting hardware, not including our specialized bolts. All of those are things that we had to purchase in order for this skate to be created. And we have to do most of these. You know, these are uniform. This mounting is uniform across all of our skates. These bolts are uniform across all of our skates. These shock absorbers are in 2 of each of our shells. But for every other shell, we have a brand new cuff, brand new boot, brand new sole plate. And there's 2 of them. So each side. So 6 shells, 6 molds in order to just make the plastic stuff of this, not including the shock absorbers, not including the hardware. Huge expense. And the stress was, well, what if I'm just making these skates for me? You know, like I'm going to end up with these molds for skates that nobody's going to want. I, again, have an amazing team working with me that had the visuals, and I had an amazing team that kept me on the path of success. And I feel like the Omni is an amazing skate. A lot of people are going to love. And I was extremely confident when we did the release. Being able to share, though, and finally put it out there and hear from shops that they're getting flooded with customers saying, hey, this thing is going to be a success. That was the huge relief. Now, obviously, I still need to get through production. I still need to ship. That's going to be the next stress point. And getting that first production out there, we're only working with a few shops because we don't know that the first production is going to go smoothly. It never does, right? So we want to make sure that if something goes wrong, maybe a buckle is faulty, or maybe a frame is faulty, or maybe things come in different configurations than they should. We want to make sure that we can work with shops that we trust, that have really great relationships with their customers, so we can get through any of these weird things that happen with the first production run. So once that's done, I'll be able to rest. So by Christmas time, I'll be able to rest. But thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. All the super chats go to the Helmet Initiative. Any money that we make from the Back to Blading channel goes to get more helmets on people's heads. So thank you for your contribution. Darren, I have a Crown Control Mega Large frame. Are your frames on the Omni large on the US 10? Yes. Our cutoff is the size 44. This is the large frame. This is 270 from wheel 1 to wheel 4. The size 40 and the 42 are 250 millimeters from size 1 to size 4. They are the same splits as the 50-50 frames. They are the same brakes as the 50-50 frames. So if you have a large frame, it will probably fit perfectly on your size 10 skates, which would be the 10, 10 and a half, which is also my shell. Great question. Will the flat set cost $299? No. This is the $299 configuration. So it comes with the included anti-rocker wheels, comes with 58 millimeter wheels, AVEC 9 bearings, comes with the boot, comes with the comfort liner, internal shock absorber. That is the $299 configuration. If you want to get a flat setup, the wheels are going to cost an extra $40 for a set of 4 wheels. They include the ABEC 9 bearings. Those wheels are not going to be available aftermarket. So we're not going to sell those wheels as a replacement thing so that people can get cheap wheels, because they're going to be great wheels, but we don't want to compete with wheel companies. At the point of purchase, if you wanted a flat setup, you can get an extra set of 4 wheels, or if you wanted replacement wheels, let's be honest, you can get an extra set of 4 wheels for $40, and they include the ABEC 9 bearings. Some shops will set them up for you free of charge. Some shops will charge you, a few bucks to set them up because, it's labor. You have to take out the anti-rocker wheels. You have to put in the other wheels. Super easy to do, but it's something that they would need to do. I'm suggesting that they offer that as a service, but if you want to just throw them in the box, then that's fine. So your skates will come like this. You'll need to swap out the inside wheels. It's an additional $40, which brings the total to $339 if you want a flat setup. I hope that helps. I still think it's a great bargain. I think a lot of people are just going to ride anti-rocker though. Guy, you smashed it, man. So much. Congratulations. Thank you so much, Guy. I hope that you can come out and visit again. It'd be great to do a gear talk with you as soon as you get through your current skate crisis and talk about what led you to the skate crisis and where you end up. I hope you end up with us, but Lord knows, perfect skate for me doesn't mean the perfect skate for everybody. I do hope that you all try it though. Garrett O'Brien, would you be able to cover the liner centimeter ranges? Yes. So again, the brake is available on the chart. 310, 295, 282, 271. If you subtract 10, that is the high end that we recommend for the liner. So it would be 300, 285, 272, and 261. So if your foot is any of those numbers, you're perfect in this liner, this stock liner. You could probably wiggle, 5-10 millimeters below that and it'll still feel good. We did when we were figuring out, you'll notice, stuttering it. You'll notice that the brakes are different. So 310 is 15 millimeters more than 295. 295 is 13 millimeters more than 282. 282 is 11 millimeters more than 271. The reason why we did that split is because we were looking at sizing of people around the world. We found charts and we looked at where there were more feet. So we didn't want to just make a shell that was exactly 10 millimeters from shell to shell to shell to shell. We wanted to make more shells in areas where there are more feet. That means that more people can fit into a shell that fits them better. So our gap between the large and the extra large is 15 millimeters because above a 10.5, when you get to an 11 and a 12, there's more of a distance between those two sizes. There's less people who have feet that large. Whereas the 10, 10.5, there's a lot of people. The 8 to 9, there's a lot of people. So we wanted to make sure those were closer together. The 6-7 is a smaller size, 261. We do plan on making a extra small. That will be after we finish our first production run. 4 molds is a lot of money. After we're done with this first production run, we will do an extra small. That will bring it down to 250, 250 millimeters, so 260 millimeter internal. I think that will help a lot of people with smaller feet, a lot of female skaters, maybe even kids. It's a market that we aren't neglecting, but we had to make some decisions on where we were going to put our shells, and we wanted to make it so that I could skate personally and people that I knew had bigger feet, and we made sure that we had a skate for them. So those are the brakes. You can go to standardskate.co to find more information. Go to the sizing page and you'll see all of the separation of the different shells, as well as the recommendations for which feet, how long your foot should be in our stock liners. Now, in saying that you can bring your own liner, downsize a little bit, you could bring your own liner, upsize it a little bit if you want a puffier liner, if you've got a smaller foot and you need a puffier liner in the small shell. There's ways around it. We're trying to be as transparent as possible and give you all the information on our shell sizing so that you can make educated decisions. Great question. J5, where are you? Oops, more scrolling faster tonight. Must be more people on. If launch goes well, do you think a new mold sizes will come in the near future? Yes. I should have read that before I answered, but yes. As soon as we're done with this launch, we have money budgeted, assuming that everything goes smoothly. We have money budgeted for the extra small, and that will be our 4.5. So US 4.5, which will be the EU, what is that, 37, 38. So that'll be our next shell. Hope to do that by spring of 2024. That is our goal. And then after we do that, we will listen to the community and see where we need to buy more shells. We want to make sure that everybody has a skate that they're going to fit. I don't know that we'll do in-between sizes. That's a lofty goal. I want to make sure that we've got a bigger range before we start filling in the splits. But again, what our customers ask for is probably what we'll end up doing. Great question. Next brand to make, James says, next brand, I'm stalling again. Wonder why the stream is going slow. James, next brand to make a soft boot with a recessed sole and boot mounted frame like the blanks and SLs will have all my money. Just an idea. I love the idea of a soft boot. It's going to be a while for us. We got to recoup this cost, but this is just our first skate, and I do hope that we can make another boot in the future. Darren, what is the max wheel size for the flat setup? They come with 58 millimeter wheels. You could ride 60s flat. You could see there's room. And with the sole plates the way that they are, you could definitely ride bigger. So flat 60 is probably as big as you can go. I recommend flat 58. I think it's a really great size. I wouldn't go any bigger than flat 58 personally, but you could go up to 60s if you wanted. James asks, when is the edit coming out? The team edit, as soon as we get skates to the guys so they can go out and skate, that's when it's going to come out. I don't know yet. We'll see. Hopefully in November, but we'll see. We need to give them a little bit of time. Aldelega, tell us about them girths. I don't know what that means, but I'm glad that you're here. Mr. Darren 25 just missed most of the live, so I'll have to rewatch, but big congrats on the new skate. Industry will really appreciate what you're bringing to the table. Thank you so much. I do hope that this brings something fresh to the industry. It is hard to do anything new after skates have been around for 25, 30 years, but I feel like we've checked a few boxes that haven't been checked before. I think the customization that you get with our skates is going to be incredible. The responsiveness of the ride, the internal shock absorber with the shock pad, it's going to be a really, really soft, comfortable ride. Personally, I love skating them. It's that feeling that you get when everything just kind of clicks for you and you go out there and you just have a great time. You forget that you're in skates. You're just kind of floating. That is the feeling that I get when I'm skating these. So I don't know if it's going to be the same for you, but it's definitely that for me. Sasha again, beautiful to see you so excited. Can you tell us the last wide front foot tell us the last wide front foot inside the shells? I don't know what that means, Sasha. Can you tell us the last wide front foot inside the shells? I don't know what that means. I don't have, so these charts, it might be about the width. The width of this is a little misleading because your foot, the bottom of your foot is like this, and it goes like that. So this is taken 10 millimeters from the bottom of the boot. That is at the lowest part of your foot. So don't use this as much as a width determination. Use it more as a length determination. From a width perspective, again, they feel kind of like blanks. They feel kind of like 909s. They feel kind of like SLs. I think they'll be a really good width. I hope that answers your question. If not, send me a text and I will, or a DM, and I will sort you out. Thanks again for the super chat, though. Appreciate you. Darren, I can't stop looking at them. They both look awesome. The black is my fave. Still looking well done. Did you say you sell to an Australian shop? Yes. I'm not going to go through the whole shop list. Go to the website for that, but Rampant is getting them. Mike and I have been chatting daily. Great response down in Australia. Absolutely love Australia. I hope we can get a lot of skates down there because I think they're going to do really well. But yes, he will have the skates. Make sure that you check out Rampant Skate Shop, their website this weekend, Saturday. Place your order. Whatever configuration you need, he's going to work with us to get skates. I think he's actually going to get the skates direct from the factory in China. So he'll be able to import them, and he might even get them before I do, which will be nice. I hate having to ship things. You know, most of our products are made in China. They're in a factory that, you know, makes injection molding, and they do that really well. Hardware injection molding, liners, things like that, they do that really well over there. But it takes 3 weeks to get to us, and then it would take another week to get down to Australia. Why not just ship directly to Australia? It would take a week and a half, you know? So we are very fortunate to be able to do that. We've been working really closely with our shops. A lot of shops are going to do import direct from the factory, and they're going to save a lot of money. I won't have to charge them as much because I won't have to worry about importing them, and they're going to get them faster, and they're going to get them nice and smooth directly from the factory instead of me having to pack things up and take time to get them out to them. So again, a lot to learn. That's why this first order we're a little hesitant, but I think we're going to be in a pretty good shape. Philip, oh hi the fourth. What do you think the most switched from skate to yours will be? If I'm reading the question properly, what skate do I think people will leave to try our skates? That is a crazy question. I don't know. I don't know that there's any reason anybody would leave one skate to go to another because they're... I don't know. It's an excellent question. I'd like to think that this skate addresses everybody out there. If you like a skinned skate, you're definitely not going to be jumping onto ours. It's going to be a good fit, but it's a very different experience than a skinned skate. I think any plastic shell boot, you know, if you're rating a plastic shell boot now, you should give it a shot. It might fit you better. It might feel better. It might be lighter. It might be more responsive. It might be a better sole plate. A lot of things we've done really well. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find all of those features in another hard shell boot. So if you are currently skating a hard shell boot, I welcome you. Let me know what you think. Joe Ferreira, hey Joe, are the buckles bolted or riveted to the cuff? Yes, the buckles are also riveted. So underneath the buckle, you can see that these are riveted as well. The reason why we've done that is to keep buckles from rattling around. There's nothing worse than a loud and noisy skate. Skating up, I have a few skates on this wall that when I'm skating, I just hear the buckle rattling around. I don't like that. So we've riveted the buckles, same reason we riveted the cuffs. We don't want to worry about that. These buckles being locking buckles, very, very, very unlikely they're going to break. In saying that, it's really easy to drill out rivets, especially rivets up top for the buckles if you ever need to replace them or if you ever want to swap out the buckles with something else. That is a really easy mod to do. We are more focused on making things easy for people and more reliable for people, so we are riveting as much as we can because it's just a really good, no noise, solid ride. So, but I'm really curious to see what other people do. I love our buckles. See what other people end up doing. Once they're yours, they're yours. Great question. I didn't address that. I should have addressed that. Al Delega says girths equal widths. Okay. Thank you. The width is very similar to, you'll find the ride is very similar to a 909, very similar to an SL, very similar to a blank. They are not the widest skates out there, but they're also not narrow. We've tried dozens of people on these skates, and they all fit great. I can't say that they have wide feet. I don't know what becomes a wide foot in that measurement, but I think it's a fairly normal width. I would say that I have a fairly normal width. I can fit into a Majestic 12, but it is a little snug. These are much wider than a Majestic 12. I don't have any concerns that these are a narrow skate, but they're definitely not a wide skate. They're not on a Genesis or a Faction level. They're definitely more narrow than that. Great question, and thanks for the girth. Zach Smith, girth, he is talking about width. Thank you, Zach. I do ignore Al as much as possible, but this is an opportunity for me to answer his question, and I'm glad that he sorted me out. Nishi, do the size guys illustrate the flat bottom of the boot only? Does the boot balloon out from there as it goes up to the shell? Weird question, not sure how to phrase it. It's totally a weird question, and it's totally difficult for me to explain. These drawings, so I'll show you one of the single drawings. This is my best attempt to illustrate what this looks like. And this is actually the wrong side. I'll show you what this one. It's probably not going to make any sense, but so this is the 295 shell. You can see on the inside, you can kind of read that. It says standard 295 millimeter. So we're using that 295 as our designation. 295 for the shell, 295 for the cuff, 295 for the sole plate. That way you'll know this is the 295 shell. Because if we said that this is the 285, that's not true, because if you use your own liner, it would be a different length. So the shell is the only thing that's set in stone. That is the length, and the length is 295 here. If you look at this, it fits on the shell. So it's kind of hard to show. I've taken it from 10 millimeters from the bottom of the shell, 10 millimeters from the bottom of the shell up, because I wanted to simulate what it would look like with the shock absorber. So it is 10 millimeters up from here. So it's like around there. And 10 millimeters from here. So it's right below the cutout for the toe. Now the inside is not ridged. It is completely flat on the inside. You don't see this raised. This is just additional material for the toe. This is the actual base of the boot. If you look on the inside though, you see that it does balloon out. And if you look at the bottom, you can see it comes like that. So it is hard for me to demonstrate on a two-dimensional piece of paper what that looks like. The length is the only thing that I could get fairly accurate. As far as the width, as far as the girth, as Al would say, it's very hard to put into a print. What I will say is it's similar to other skates as far as width. We did open up the toe box a lot. So this area up here, you can actually kind of see that the toe box is opened up a little bit. This area is higher so that you get a little bit more room up top. And this area is a little bit wider because we found that people were getting a little bit of pressure points back here towards the ankle. So we fixed that. Otherwise, I think it's a fairly normal boot, normal width, not too tight, not too wide, just right. Great question, and I hope that answered it. Al Delega, Sasha is asking about the width of the boot last, i.e. the width of the fit. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it would be, again, a lot of questions around width. I think it's a D width. Width is really hard to demonstrate, but it is a nice, comfortable width. It's not too tight, not too wide. Thank you, Al. Dej915, how stiff are the cuffs? Did you guys test harder versus softer ones? We didn't really test harder versus softer cuffs. The cuffs are a softer material than the boot, but not by much. We found that the cuffs, they are cuffs. I don't know that there's a right material for cuffs. One of the interesting things that I hope that we're able to do in the future is, now that we've set a baseline, we know what materials we've used, we can give them a rating, and we will test different materials as time goes on and have a more flexible boot, have a more stiff boot. We can test different things and come up with a different rating scale to say these are going to be a little bit stiffer than this one, a little bit more flexier than this. For our launch, this is a supportive skate. It's not going to be a flexi skate. In saying that, I'm able to do all of my tricks with it, but it's not going to be as flexy as the flexible skates out there. We wanted to make a skate that was good for all around skating, not just for aggressive. So you could do wizardy stuff with this, but you could also do kind grinds with this. I hope that answers your question. And it is just the beginning. So what we have at launch, we will change in the future, and we will come out with new materials that we test and always improve. Joseph Lux, hey Joseph, can you compare the standard shock absorber to the SL Shift shock absorber? Yeah, so that shock absorber is squishy. I don't have it, it's way over there, but I can show it to you tomorrow. That shock absorber is squishy and tall. So if this is 10 millimeters, those are maybe 15, 20 millimeters. They are the 40A hardness though. So they are a squishy shock absorber, which will be the same as the black aggressive shock absorbers that we'll have in the box. Good question. But if you want a forward lean, more of a forward lean, use one of those shock absorbers. You can just throw it in the shell. It will give you more response or more cushion when you're doing gaps. And being taller, it will make you feel like you're leaning forward a little bit more. Some people like that. The beauty of a flat shell boot is that you can adjust the forward lean however you want. Right. Donatello, measurements are great, but can you compare the shell brake sizes to another brand's shell brakes? I can't, and the reason is I don't know their internal measurements, because a lot of them don't really share that internal information. I want to say if you compared them to a Colt, I think that was the closest one that we found. That our shell brakes were very similar to a Colt. I think they're a little bit wider than a Colt, but the lengths I think are about the same as the Colts. But I could be wrong, because I don't think anybody does more shells in the tight area, so between the 8 and the 9 and the 10, 10 and a half. I don't think that split is always the same. And then we go wider, so we have less shells as it gets away from that middle area. I don't think anybody's doing that. But I don't know. Again, most companies don't publish their internal measurements. And sometimes when they do, you look at their internal measurements and you're like, well, that can't be right. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm the only one that I know that has internal measurements, because I have the models and I pull the models and I measure the models and I share the models and I put the drawings out there. So I could stand behind my measurements. I don't have faith in other people's measurements. So it would be bad for me to try to compare them with them, because I don't know. It would be false information. But maybe this will encourage other brands to do it. I know that there are plenty of internal measurements out there. I don't know how much faith I have in them though. Just to be honest, because I haven't seen their work. I don't know. Aaron Norton, who is on the team, you will find out in November. I mentioned before they are getting their skates next week. they'll be able to go out there and skate, and they're going to get some clips, and they're going to put together an edit. Hopefully November. We'll see. Depends weather, depends when skates get here, all that stuff. But I know they're going to work hard on it, and we'll have a nice announcement soon. Joe Ferrer, I was thinking about Velcro aftermarket straps. Thank you. Yes, I think that is a good use case. I think that there's a lot of use cases, to be honest. It's if there was anything that we would change on the skate, it would be the riveted buckles. I prefer riveted buckles. I think it is the right decision, but I'm going to listen to the market and see what people say. If there's a lot of demand for swapping out buckles, and heaven forbid there's breakages that cause more difficulties in replacing buckles, then we'll make a change. We're not set in stone. We're listening to the community to see what you need. And if there's a need for a change, doesn't matter what it is, we'll listen and we'll make that change to make it better. But great question. And I welcome the feedback. More, please. Hey, Sasha again. Hey, Sasha, do you know how the Omni will perform with a Wizard NR100 or PR80? Well, I can tell you this. I have these set up that I was testing. Oh, I can't reach them. I was skating Omnis with Kaiser Element 90s. They felt great, really great. They were responsive, they were solid. The only concern that I had was that the sole plate was a little wide. So the heel area especially, when I was doing crossovers, because I get pretty low on my crossovers, I was worried, I didn't scrape, but I was worried I was going to scrape. So ideally, and this is way down the line, ideally, if we ever wanted to really support wizard skating, we would make a sole plate designed for wizard skating. That wouldn't be about grinds. That might have a small sole plate, but it would be more just a platform for flex so that the frame could mount directly to the boot or directly to the sole plate. Wouldn't need a wide sole because you aren't doing sole tricks, but it would be more responsive, maybe a lower ride height. It's more things that we're thinking about, with the open source base. Maybe somebody will make a sole plate that is small and streamlined for wizard skating. I would love to see that. I think that would be a really great project for somebody to take on. Just mounting of the UFS on the bottom with M6 bolts and, get your sole plate on there, mount your frame on, and, that could be a really nice wizard setup. But yeah, the boots themselves, they felt great. Again, supportive, stiff enough. Nothing worse than a flexi boot in wizard skates. You see it, and it's just like, ugh, your poor ankles. We want to make it so that these skates can do whatever you want to throw at them. And I think we did that. Zach Markham, width compared to a sway. I would say they're a little bit wider than a sway. I think a sway might be a little narrow. I've had people complain that the sways can kind of hurt on their width area. I don't know, though. I don't have the measurements. I never had an issue with a sway. So for me, they would probably be similar width. But again, until people can share measurements and full models, it's hard for me to say. I can't really compare numbers to numbers. But I would say that they're a little bit wider than a sway. Aldelega, any system for keeping the shock pad from sliding around, Velcro tape, a mechanical lock? It will have tape. The ones that they sent over had glue. That glue was not right, so it will have tape so that you'll be able to place it down. It won't move around, but you'll be able to take it up and put it back down there. Glue is more permanent. I don't think they realized that we were going to be moving them around, so they are fixing that for the next samples that I should have next week. They're actually in transit now, so I might even have them by Friday. Great question, though. A lot of little things that I didn't address. I like the way that people are thinking tonight. It shows that you're listening. And we're still going. Jeez Louise. Very good. Very happy. Nishi, I'm sorry, I can't see super well without my glasses. Perfect explanation for what I was asking. That clears up a lot for me. Great. I'm feeling confident about the size I'll be buying. Thank you for all your exhaustive details on the fit. Oh, I appreciate it. Fit is really difficult. We don't have enough skate shops anymore, and there's no way to go try things on. The skate shops that I am working with all have spots that you can go in and try them on, but there's not enough of them yet. We have the Balance Distribution Warehouse that we will be opening up more regularly for people to come in and try them on. As soon as I get the samples, feel free, reach out, come on by. Weekends, probably I work during the week. Come on, try them on. Make sure that you get the ones that fit you. We will do everything we can to get the fit right. But it's a really hard thing to explain without having you physically here. We're doing our best. But again, after you buy the skates, I would love to get some feedback based on the sizing charts. If you use the printouts and you said, okay, I used this chart, I got the skate, and it didn't fit right, I want to know about that so that we can improve our charts so that people can get what they're expecting. I'm confident in them, but again, we haven't had people buy them yet, so we're always improving. Keep the feedback coming. Zach Markham, any chance of these being sold in Brazil somewhere? You know, we do work with a distributor down in Brazil. Unfortunately, the distributor is also the Razor's distributor. So I don't know if they're up for distributing a second skate line. I haven't heard back from them yet, so I will continue poking and prodding and seeing if I can get some distribution down there. I would love to get down to Brazil. I think 50/50 is down in Brazil. It's a great country. I have a place in my heart for Brazil. Was down there twice for the Latinx games, and I would love to get some skates down there. How is the forward flex from Zach Smith? I think it's not as crazy as some skates. It's a stiff skate. It's hard to demonstrate with the thing buckled in, but you can see I don't know, it's enough. It's enough. I think it's going to be more supportive. I don't think it's going to be a floppy feeling. It's hard to demonstrate with hands, but I haven't noticed any obscene forward flex. Watching Chris Farmer skate, you can see that he flexes the heck out of those sways. It's not like that. It's going to be more supportive than that. James, is the locking buckle sourced from Sunshine Distribution, the same buckle as the SL, or is it your design? It is not our design. It's an open mold buckle. I have these SLs here. It looks like it's the same buckle. Maybe it is. No, it's slightly different. So if you look at the locking mechanism on the SL, and then you look at the locking mechanism on ours, slightly different. I will say that they're very similar looking though. Yeah, very similar looking. Maybe the locking area is, no, it's got different font on it. I would say it's different, but it's different. But it's a good catch. I've never had a problem with them. I love these buckles. They work great for me. So if they worked great for you on the SLs, maybe they're the same. I don't know. I don't know. Zach Markham, I just took the month of Mondo of my wide feet, 95 Mondo. So given a 10 millimeter thick liner, 105 millimeter, what's the side-to-side measurement of the small Omni? I wouldn't have that number handy. If you send me a message, I can send you some drawings to help you. But it's, looking at this chart, which is probably the wrong numbers, and using my calipers. So this is the small, and shell to shell internal looks to be 103 millimeters. I don't know if this is perfectly accurate, but if your internal is 105, the base of the 10 millimeters above is 103. So it sounds like you're going to be right where it is. I don't know if you have a wide foot though. Again, the base of your foot is kind of like this. This measurement is like here. So you're going to get a little bit more in the shell because the shell comes out a little bit more. It's a really hard measurement to share. But I can help you if you're interested. Just send me a message and I'll try to help. Darren, I will download the size PDF, but just thought I would ask. I have Seba CJ size 10 with an internal liner. Do you think I should get the 10 US for your Omni? Yes. Yes, the Seba CJ size 10, that's what I ride. And yes, I think the size 10 Omni is probably perfect for you, which is the same one that I ride, the large. Yes, large. All right, I think that's it. Are we done? I'm losing my voice. Almost 3 hours, y'all. Sasha asks, can we wizard? You don't have to always do super chats. I appreciate you. I love you, but you don't need to. You don't need a super chat all the time. You bought a whole helmet already. Can we wizard with the Omni without sole plate? You can, but I don't know that it would be recommended. Where's that shell? I'm losing things. I have a black shell with no sole plate. There it is. If you wizard without, it would look like this. So you would put the frame on and it would work, but I think it would be better to put an actual sole plate on, even if it's a custom sole plate, just so that you get the line aesthetically. I think that's a much cleaner look. But you do you. It is a thick shell, so the inside, it's really hard to see, but I can actually use the mounting plate. So the mounting plate is flush with the bottom. So I put it in there, I put it in the front. You can see the front. You can see the front, you can see it up there. And it's completely flush. So that means that the thickness of the shell is the thickness of the mounting plate, right? So the shell is 7 millimeters thick. That's a pretty thick shell. And having this as your mount is going to be a really good base, because not only are you going to get the UFS center, but even without a sole plate, you'll have this strength keeping it inside the shell. I still wouldn't do it, but you probably could. 7 millimeters is a pretty thick shell for a base. Dej9, I can't read that one, 91.5. If you use a thin liner, can you feel where the cutouts for the mounting hardware are on the bottom of the shell? How flush is it? No, it's completely flush. So if anything, it's recessed a little bit. No, I mean, it's almost completely flush. Yeah, maybe a millimeter below, but it's not raised. This one's raised a little bit. So I can feel the front one a little bit. I can't feel the back one at all. So you could definitely feel it, I guess, if you were that sensitive, but I don't think you will. I don't think I've ever felt it. You could put one of those little plastic things down, you know, the little shims down there, if you feel like you're going to feel it, but we're not going to be doing that. I don't think it's high enough that it's going to make anybody notice it. All right, I think I'm done. Oh, no, couple more. Couple more and then I'm done. Zach Markham, I have a wide foot, so we'll need to get a medium, which looks wider on the sighting chart. The medium is probably a little bit wider than the large, but it should be a fairly standard width. So size D with the D width, whatever the D is. Jeff Metz, thanks for everything. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for the drink tonight. It was lovely. Sean Michelson, you did this to yourself. Yes, I'm very tired. Thank you, Sean. And then finally, Austin Sullivan, is there any flex difference in the white shell compared to the black shell? I haven't skated the white shells yet. I will report back. I'm going to skate the black shells this weekend and do the video, first impressions video, kind of. And then I will skate the white shells and see if I tell any difference. I did notice there was a weight difference. So the white is very, very little heavier than the black. I'll use this shell only with the weight. So this is my scale. So this is the shell only for size 44. When the white is 370. Shell only for the black is 362. So again, very, very light, slight difference. The black plastic is very little difference. From a flex perspective though, I tell no difference. So it's going to be really difficult to see. I would say that they're about the same. If anything, I think maybe the white will be a little bit flexier. I've just heard that white material can be a little flexier, but I have no evidence to support that. All right. Are we done? I think we're done. Sean Michelson, are there an insole to the liners? Yes. Yes. I told you all I would get through all the questions, so if you keep having good questions, I'll keep answering them. Yes, we have insoles. They are a cupped insole. They have a standard logo on the bottom, so it looks really nice. You can easily swap these out for some super feet or something, but should be a really nice comfort insole for you. That's the insole inside the liner. Dan Howard, stock lace lengths and the laces, the liner's stretchy. People want to know. The liner laces are elastic, so they are stretchy. The laces in the shells themselves, I don't know the measurements. I think they are 64 millimeter, but don't quote me on that. I will have to find out. I don't know offhand. Back to the liner. All right. Andrew Sullivan, thank you and congratulations, skates. Can't wait to get through. Thank you so much for the support. And John Smith with a super chat. Thank you, John. Appreciate you so much. This has been a long night. It's 3 hours now. I'm very tired. My voice is not good. But thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to finally be at this finish line where I can share everything that I've been working on for the last 3 years. Pre-orders start on Saturday, so this is the time where I say, please help us out. If you are at all interested, if you've got the means right now to try out a new skate, or the interest to try out a new skate, we've got 3 different price points. The complete at $299, got everything that you need. You can get a boot only if you want to ride your own frames. Those are $219. And then if you want to save some money, use the existing liners you've got, use the existing frames, you can get the shell only at the incredible price of $159. They will be going on sale at 9 a.m. on Saturday, Eastern Time. You can buy from us on balancedisc.com. You can buy from any of the shops. Go to standardskate.co for a list of our retailers. We've been adding shops daily, so if you are looking for a shop in your region, please reach out if you don't see anything near you. They would probably love to carry the skates. I've heard a lot of great things from shops. Again, thank you all so much for staying with me tonight, watching the show, asking great questions. I hope that you will be advocates in your area to explain to others what's going on with the skates, because there's a lot of stuff that we've done with this skate that I feel deserves a little bit of explanation so that people know that it's not just another plastic skate. This is a very purpose-built skate for what we do, for where skating is now, and where I think skating will be going in the future. Thanks everybody again so much for all the support over the years. It really means a lot. You are the reason why I'm able to do these crazy projects. I'm going to go rest my voice, maybe get some hot tea and some honey, and I will see you all again in 2 weeks.